Chapter 429. Tan Xiu's vision became a bit blurred, as if he could see the busy figure of his mother when she was running the small restaurant. After a while, he came back to his senses and slowly said, "I remember reading about such a situation on the internet. In a certain foreign country, once a child reaches the age of 18, most of the parents will let the child receive training and develop the ability to be self-reliant. But in our country, most of the children are pampered since childhood. By the time they go to university, they are already in their 20s, right? At this time, the parents can still provide money for their children to go to university, so that they don't have to worry about food and clothing. This is already a great gift. If they use their parents' money to fall in love and have fun, it's better to earn money themselves. After they have a certain financial foundation, they can then look for someone who is worthy of helping each other for a lifetime." Jiang Fian followed beside Tan Xiu and stared blankly at Tan Xiu's somewhat deep and serious face. Her heart suddenly throbbed a bit. This junior brother, who seemed to be in his early 20s, a few years younger than her, was unexpectedly able to say such words, which made her admire him from the bottom of her heart. Suddenly, she felt somewhat ashamed to face her parents because she used their money to study in university without worrying about food and clothing. She even used the money from her parents to buy things for her boyfriend. "I miss my parents," Jiang Fian said in a low voice. Tan Xiu turned his head and looked at her, saying with a smile, "If you miss your parents, just call them. The deepest affection in the world is the warmth of family." Jiang Fian was silent for a long time. She followed Tan Xiu back to the villa's courtyard and suddenly said, "Thank you, Tan Xiu." "You're welcome," said Tan Xiu with a smile. After entering the villa's hall, Tan Xiu found that Mu Weining had already woken up. She was sitting on the sofa and playing English content on her mobile phone. "Oh. I thought you guys haven't woken up yet. I didn't expect you to buy breakfast." Mu Weining saw Tan Xiu and Jiang Fian, immediately got up and said with a smile. Tan Xiu said with a smile, "Getting up early to breathe some fresh air will make you feel energetic for the whole day. Go and wake them up. I'll also wake them up for breakfast." "All right." Mu Weining smiled and looked at Jiang Fian. "Fian, are you feeling better?" A smile appeared on Jiang Fian's face as she nodded and said, "Much better. Also, I discovered a secret." Mu Weining was confused. "What secret?" "Sister Weining, I felt that no man in this world is worthy of you ever since I saw you," said Jiang Fian with a smile. "But today, I don't think so. I think Tan Xiu is very suitable for you. You two are simply a match made in heaven. Although he said that he doesn't want to date in university, I think if you try your best to pursue him, he will definitely fall for you." Pfft. Mu Weining revealed a rare flirtatious charm as she glanced at Tan Xiu and said with a charming smile, "I may think that I'm infinitely charming, but it's not easy to conquer this blockhead of a man like him." Jiang Fian's eyes lit up and she asked in surprise, "Sister Weining, do you like Tan Xiu?" "He's the best man I've ever seen, so of course I like him," Mu Weining said with a smile. "It's just that he has his own standards and doesn't want to accept me at all. Therefore, I can only be self-aware and hide in a distant place to watch him and continue to worship him. In fact, I think it's quite interesting to be his little fan." Jiang Fian clenched her fists and giggled, "Come on, Sister Weining. I believe in you." All right. Don't joke around." Mu Weining smiled. "I'm going to wake them up." Tan Xiu could tell that Mu Weining was joking, so he didn't take it seriously. He went into the kitchen and took a lot of tableware. After bringing them to the dining room, he put the breakfast he bought on the table. Quickly, he picked up Yu Kai, Hu Qingsong, and the other two from the bed and threw them into the bathroom to wash up. It didn't take long for everyone to come to the dining room. "Wow, Moneybags Tang has turned into a considerate cotton-padded jacket. It's so early in the morning, yet he's already prepared such a sumptuous breakfast." Zhao Liang rubbed his hands and sat on the chair. "Hurry up and eat. Food can block your mouth," Tan Xiu said with a smile. After breakfast, several girls ran to the kitchen to wash the dishes. After they were done, everyone took a few cars and rushed to the campus. Especially Tan Xiu's group. After all, they had to report to the classroom today, so they sent Mu Weining and the other 3 girls to the girls' dormitory. Under the watchful eyes of countless people, they drove to the teaching building. In the history department classroom. As soon as Tan Xiu's group of 5 entered the classroom, many of their classmates surrounded them. Most of them looked at Tan Xiu and asked Tan Xiu what big trick he used to escape the devilish life of the military training. Tan Xiu had already made up a good excuse and easily dealt with it. Clatter, 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 along with the sound of high-heeled shoes, Han Qingwu entered the classroom with a stack of materials in her arms. Her eyes swept around the classroom and finally stopped on Tan Xiu for a few seconds. Then, she walked to the podium and motioned for everyone to be quiet, saying, "Today is very good. Everyone is here. I've brought the timetable for our next class. I'll post it next to the blackboard. Everyone must remember the content on the timetable and must not be absent from class. Also, if you're interested in other subjects, you can also take electives." Time fleeted by. Dozens of minutes passed by quickly. Tan Xiu sat in the seat below and quietly listened to Han Qingwu's words, as well as the topics she exchanged with other students. He found that Han Qingwu had looked at him many times in these dozens of minutes, and her eyes were fixed on him. Well, tomorrow is the official class time. Everyone, have a good rest today. All the students who have signed up to perform at the freshman welcoming party in the evening must practice well and strive to win glory for our class. Tan Xiu, come out with me. After saying that, Han Qingwu turned around and left the classroom. Tan Xiu sighed inwardly. He knew that Han Qingwu would ask him to talk to her alone in another place. He could even guess the content of the conversation between the two of them. In the stairwell. Han Qingwu held the stack of materials and quietly looked at Tan Xiu. She didn't speak and just looked at him. After a while, seeing that Tan Xiu also didn't speak, she frowned and said with dissatisfaction, "Tan Xiu, did I provoke you in any way?" "No." Tan Xiu shook his head and lightly said. Han Qingwu angrily said, "Then what do you mean by that? I called you several times afterward, but why didn't you answer? Besides, look at your current attitude. It's obvious that you have a problem with me." Tan Xiu was silent for a moment and then said, "Miss Han, do you want to ask about the last time we met?" "Yes, I want to hear your explanation," Han Qingwu replied without hesitation. "It's not an explanation. It's my private matter, after all." Tan Xiu said. "Since you want to know, I have nothing to hide." "Then tell me." Han Qingwu said. "Have you heard of the magnificent Tang Corporation?" Tan Xiu asked. "I know. It's a newly established company in Star City a few months ago." Han Qingwu nodded and said, "The company's business is booming recently." "I'm the owner of the magnificent Tang Corporation," said Tan Xiu. "What did you say?" Han Qingwu was stunned and asked with an incredulous expression. "I said I'm the owner of the magnificent Tang Corporation. The general manager of the magnificent Tang Corporation, Kang Xia, is actually working for me," Tan Xiu repeated. Seeing that Tan Xiu didn't seem to be joking, Han Qingwu's heart was filled with shock. Never once did she expect that Tan Xiu turned out to be the owner of the magnificent Tang Corporation. It must be noted that she had a deep understanding of Tan Xiu's family situation. But now, she realized that what she knew was not necessarily everything. "What about the Everlasting Feast Hall?" "I'm also the owner of the Everlasting Feast Hall," said Tan Xiu. "I can believe it if the magnificent Tang Corporation is yours." Han Qingwu shook her head and said, "But I don't believe that you're the owner of the Everlasting Feast Hall. It's because the Everlasting Feast Hall has been established for decades. Even my grandfather recently investigated the Everlasting Feast Hall, yet he encountered a lot of resistance and setbacks. This shows that the Everlasting Feast Hall is very powerful. You're just a freshman who just entered Shanghai University. How could you possibly be the owner of the Everlasting Feast Hall?" The affairs of the world are unpredictable. I can be the owner of the magnificent Tang Corporation, so why can't I be the owner of the everlasting feast hall? Tan Xiu said. I believe you should have been to the Everlasting Feast Hall's branch in Shanghai after the previous incident, yes? Did you see Qi Nan? Yes, I did. Han Qinggu nodded and said, I also saw Qi Nan. Since you've confirmed her identity, why do you still doubt me? Asked Tan Xiu. Han Qingwu's sensual red lips squirmed a few times. She was rendered speechless by Tan Xiu's words. In fact, she had already believed that Tan Xiu was the owner of the Everlasting Feast Hall, yet it was very difficult for her to accept it. After all, even her grandfather was somewhat afraid of the Everlasting Feast Hall, yet the owner turned out to be Tan Xiu. It made her feel absurd. After being silent for a while, she said, No wonder my good sister came back from abroad and asked you to accompany her for a few days. Later on, she told me that you're very powerful and rich. I didn't believe it at first, but now I finally understand. But how did you become the owner of the Everlasting Feast Hall? It's a long story, and I don't think it's necessary to explain it to you, said Tan Xiu. We have a teacher-student relationship, so I'll listen to you in the campus. But Miss Han, you shouldn't pry into my private affairs. What's the matter with you, Tan Xiu? Han Qinggu angrily said. You weren't like this before. Tan Xiu fell into silence. That's right. He was indeed not like this. But ever since he knew that there was a 99% chance that Han Qinggu was Xue Qingqing's reincarnation, it made him change. He had lived for many years, but the person he hated the most was Xue Qingqing, who was also Han Qinggu in front of him. The deeper the love, the deeper the hatred. Since Han Qinggu didn't know about her past life, his hatred became a bit complicated. Should I kill her? Tan Xiu's heart was somewhat depressed. Should I forgive her? Tan Xiu admitted that he couldn't do it himself. Therefore, since he couldn't kill her or forgive her, he might as well choose to keep a distance. I'm really sorry. I was too busy last month, so I owe 5 chapters of monthly votes and chapters. I'll pay 2 chapters today, and the remaining 3 chapters will be paid slowly. This month is destined to be a month to pay off the debt. For the sake of Jingye's outburst, I'm weekly asking for a guaranteed monthly vote support. Chapter 430. Han Qinggu stared at the silent Tan Xiu. She felt a faint pressure in her chest that made it difficult for her to breathe, almost driving her crazy. She didn't understand. She couldn't figure out why Tan Xiu was getting colder and colder to her. You're right, Tan Xiu. I don't care if you have any other identity or not. In short, you're my student at this campus. Since you want to play the deep game, then continue playing it. Now, tell me what you're going to perform tonight. I want a hand in the list of all the performers in our class before noon. Han Qingwu's expression turned a bit pale and a bit more indifferent. Tan Xiu had actually thought about the program he was going to perform last night. He just needed to get a musical instrument and perform it casually. But looking at Han Qinggu before him, he suddenly recalled the immortal song he had composed for her. It was an immortal ballad. Immortal Dream. Zither playing and singing. Tan Xiu gave up his previous idea and lightly said. Immortal Dream? Han Qinggu was stunned and a bit of confusion could be seen on her beautiful face. She had never heard of this song before. But she didn't know why, but she vaguely felt that the name was familiar. It was as if this song had a deep connection with her. It was a feeling that was hard to explain, but it was real. Han Qinggu glanced at Tan Xiu and nodded. I'll write it down. I'll report it later. After that, she stepped on the heaven-hating mountain and turned to leave. Tan Xiu looked at her back as complex emotions rippled inside his heart. It was like the turbulence in the sea of bitterness, leaving him at a loss and palpitating. Pa, Tan Xiu subconsciously took out his lighter, lit a cigarette, and took a deep puff. Recently, he seemed to have fallen in love with the smell of cigarettes. Whenever he was in a good mood or depressed mood, he couldn't help but want to light a cigarette to calm his mood. Big bro Tang, give me one. Hu Qingsong's figure appeared in the corridor. His eyes were smiling as he looked at Tan Xiu with ridicule. Tan Xiu didn't speak and directly stuffed the lighter and cigarette into Hu Qingsong's hand. Then, he asked, there's nothing to do today. What are you going to do later? What else can I do there? Hu Qingsong laughed. He planned to go to the cafeteria to eat and then return to the dorm to sleep. I didn't sleep enough last night, so I still have a headache. Tan Xiu said, I won't go with you. I have something private to do. I'll come back to you in the evening. Hu Qingsong asked in surprise, where are you going? Tan Xiu said, to buy something. As the cigarette burned out, Tan Xiu extinguished it and walked down the stairs. Now that he had decided to play the zither in the evening, he needed to buy a good zither before the performance. However, after he sat in the car, Mu Weining called before he could start the car. Where? I'm going out to do some shopping. What's the matter? What are you going to buy? A zither. I'm at the campus gate. Pick me up and we'll go together. Tan Xiu hesitated for a moment before he agreed. When he drove to the campus gate, he saw Mu Weining in a beautiful dress with her long hair fluttering. At this time, Mu Weining was holding 2 textbooks in her hands and a coffee-colored women's bag on her shoulder. Get in the car. Tan Xiu lowered the front seat window and said. Mu Weining didn't hesitate. Under the gazes of many handsome men and beautiful women around, she opened the door and sat inside. After closing the door, she asked with a smile on her face, where are you going? Tan Xiu shook his head and said, I'm just going to stroll around. I don't know where to buy zither specifically. Mu Weining chuckled and said, I know you can play the zither. I believe your level should be as good as your calligraphy and painting. I'll definitely go to the campus auditorium in advance tonight. Tan Xiu smiled indifferently and chatted with Mu Weining while driving. What he didn't expect was that Mu Weining also knew how to play the zither and seemed to be good at it. He searched on the internet. Tan Xiu and Mu Weining found several shops that sold zither, but the quality of the zither inside was so terrible that Tan Xiu had no desire to buy them at all. At this moment, he couldn't help but miss the immortal zither he used in the immortal world. Let's have lunch first. We'll continue searching after eating. Shanghai is so big and there should be a lot of places to buy zither. I'm sure we can find a very good zither. Mu Weining followed behind Tan Xiu. After coming out of a zither shop, she looked at the bustling street and said with a chuckle. That's the only way. Tan Xiu nodded. I hope we can buy a good zither this afternoon. Otherwise, we can only choose one at random and deal with it at night. The duo randomly found a restaurant and ordered some dishes. Mu Weining didn't talk much. Although Tan Xiu wasn't a person who treasured his words like gold, he didn't think that he and Mu Weining were familiar enough to talk about everything. So he occasionally found a topic to talk about. The two of them got along very well. Ring, 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 a melodious ringtone sounded. Tan Xiu took out his mobile and looked at the caller ID. After seeing that it was Chi Nan, he immediately pressed the answer button and asked, What's up? Boss, the people from the headquarters caught an old couple. After the interrogation, they confessed that they learned about the situation of the everlasting feast hall from you. They even asked to see you. Now, the people from the HQ have escorted them to Shanghai. What do you think we should do? Tan Xiu frowned and asked, Who are they? Loose cultivators, Chi Nan said. The man's name is Wei Jiangping, and the woman's name is Chun Su. Tan Xiu frowned and asked, Where are they? At the everlasting feast hall. I'll go there now, said Tan Xiu. Finished. He hung up the phone and looked at Mu Weining, who was eating slowly, and said, I have something to deal with. You, Mu Weining gently raised her head and chuckled, I'll go with you. I don't think you'll leave me here, right? A wry smile appeared on Tan Xiu's face as he nodded and said, Are you full? Shall we go now? I'm full. Mu Weining wiped the corner of her mouth with a napkin, picked up her handbag and got up. Half an hour later, Tan Xiao and Mu Weining arrived at the everlasting feast hall. When Qi Nan saw Mu Weining beside Tan Xiao, her eyes were full of admiration. She found that her boss really had a lot of female friends, and each and every one of them was as beautiful as a fairy. Where are they? Asked Tan Xiao directly. They're being held in the training room, said Qi Nan respectfully. Tan Xiao wanted Mu Weining to stay and wait for him, but after seeing her calm expression, he hesitated and didn't say anything. Under Qi Nan's lead, they arrived at the training room. Tan Xiao saw Wei Jiangping tied to a chair and the distressed old lady. Wei Jiangping, are you investigating the everlasting feast hall? Asked Tan Xiao with an indifferent expression as he sat on the chair Qi Nan had brought over. A bit of bitterness could be seen on Wei Jiangping's old face as he looked at Tan Xiao with a bit of awe in his eyes. He nodded silently and bitterly said, "We, husband and wife, wanted to know the whereabouts of our son and daughter. We learned about the existence of the everlasting feast hall from you, so we sent people to investigate, but all of them disappeared without a trace. We had no choice but to rush to Jingmen Island ourselves. But we were found out?" Asked Tan Xiao. Then we were caught. Wei Jiangping sighed, "Yeah. Our cultivation levels are extremely high, and we thought that only a few people in the world could be our opponents. But in the end, 10 experts of the everlasting feast hall easily captured us. We could even feel that if those people had directly killed us, we would have become ghosts under their blades." Tan Xiao snorted coldly. He took out his cell phone and dialed Gu Xiaoxua's number. After she picked up the call, he asked, "Did Light and Dark know about Wei Jiangping and Chuanxiu?" "They know, Grand Master." Gu Xiaoxua's voice came from the phone. "What's their decision?" Asked Tan Xiao. "I won't see them." Tan Xiao sighed inwardly. After hanging up the phone, he looked at Wei Jiangping and Chuanxiu and said, "I can spare your lives this time considering that you are Light and Dark's biological parents. You can be spared from the death penalty, but you can't escape punishment. This matter will end here if you promise me 2 conditions." "Please say it." Wei Jiangping quickly nodded. "First, stop investigating the everlasting feast hall and stop looking for your children," said Tan Xiao. "They were in the everlasting feast hall after you were captured, but they don't want to see you now, so I advise you not to waste your efforts." Wei Jiangping hurriedly said. However, as soon as he said that, his wife interrupted him. "Boss Tang, we can agree to your request, but considering how much we miss our children, can you tell us if we will be able to see them again before we die of old age?" "Yes, we can," said Tan Xiao. Chuanxiu gratefully looked at Tan Xiao and said, "Please tell me the second condition." A smile appeared on Tan Xiao's face as he asked, "I need a zither of good quality. Do you have any way to get it?" "A zither? We can do it, but that zither is a personal belonging." Chuanxiu nodded. "I don't know if my old friend's wife is willing to. If she doesn't want to sell it, I can lend it to her for one night," said Tan Xiao indifferently. "No problem. I'll see her immediately," said Chuanxiu. Tan Xiao gestured to Qi Nan, who then untied the rope on them. She watched the couple stand up and said, "I don't have much time. I must get it before 5 p.m. "Don't worry, Boss Tang." Chuanxiu nodded. As the two left, Qi Nan curiously asked, "What do you want a zither for, boss?" "It's her doing. She signed me up for the freshman welcoming party held by the school tonight. I need to perform on the stage," said Tan Xiao with a forced smile. "You can play the zither, boss?" Qi Nan was surprised. "I must appreciate your zither skills tonight, boss." Tan Xiao secretly rolled his eyes and snappily said, "You don't need to be busy in the restaurant, do you? If not, go back to Jingmen Island and enter seclusion." Qi Nan covered her mouth and chuckled. Quiet Night has been in a particularly low mood recently due to her grandmother's death. "It's not easy for me to write 2 chapters normally. I'll pay my debt for the time being this month. I'll wait for the debt to be paid off before talking about breaking out. Quiet Night's writing speed is really unworthy of the support of my brothers and sisters. Chapter 431. After Tan Xiu left the everlasting feast hall with Mu Weining, who had been silent all this time. As soon as they got into the car, Mu Weining smiled and said, Tan Xiu, the more I get to know you, the more I find you unfathomable. I heard that the everlasting feast hall is headquartered in Jingmen Island and has branches in Shanghai, the imperial capital, as well as Hong Kong. The business is very prosperous. It's just that I didn't expect you to be the owner of the everlasting feast hall. I'm just an ordinary person, said Tan Xiu. If you were an ordinary person, I'm afraid there wouldn't be any powerful figures in this world. Mu Weining smiled. The magnificent Tang Corporation and the everlasting feast hall. I'm really curious, how many properties do you have? Just these two, said Tan Xiu. I don't believe it. Mu Weining shook her head and smiled. That's why I must contact you more in the future and learn more about your secrets. You know what? You're the one I'm most interested in, no one else. Haven't you heard the saying that once a woman has an interest in a man, she won't be far from having her heart captured? Tan Xiu snappily said. If you're really that outstanding, it's not a bad thing to have your heart captured. Mu Weining chuckled. Maybe the most important marriage in my life will be solved just like that. Material desires are rampant in this era. Tan Xiu shook his head. The people's hearts are fickle and impetuous. It's said that femme fatale is the source of trouble. In this era, the more outstanding women surround you, the more troubles you will encounter. I don't like a chaotic life. I want to live a peaceful life and do my own things. Therefore, I don't dare to marry you, the first beauty in the imperial capital and the first campus belle of Shanghai University. If you want to get married, you'd better go and harm other men. Tan Xiu, why do you say that I'm like a viper or a ferocious beast? Mu Weining coquettishly rebuked. You're better than a viper or a ferocious beast, said Tan Xiu with a smile. Because you look more attractive than them. Pfft, Mu Weining couldn't help but burst into laughter. After a while, she looked at the scenery outside the window and asked, since you asked that couple to help you find a zither, where are we going next? One red heart, 2 cards in hand, said Tan Xiu. We can't put all our hopes on them. If our old friend's wife doesn't want to lend them, we can't do it. Let's check online. Let's see if there are any shops selling zither nearby. All right. Mu Weining took out and started. Tan Xiu Tian. In the fruitful orchard, Wei Jiangping and Chen Xiu had just returned by taxi. At the entrance of the orchard, they saw Han Jintong and his wife, Yin Yue, waiting in front of a black Audi. Brother, I trouble. Wei Jiangping strode to the front of the Han Jintong couple and said with a wry smile. Brother Wei, we naturally won't stand idly by since you're in trouble. Han Jintong shook his head. The Jade Wind zither has been brought over. It's in the car. Wei Jiangping said gratefully, Brother Han, I know that the Jade Wind zither is Yi's favorite. Even if you don't want to sell it, it's fine. He said that he can only borrow it for one night. Who is he? Han Jintong asked in surprise. Tan Xiu. Wei Jiangping sighed. Han Jintong frowned and asked, what the hell is going on, Brother Wei? You and your wife went to Jingmen Island to inquire about the everlasting feast hall and met Tan Xiu there? Wei Jiangping shook his head bitterly. We didn't meet Tan Xiu in Jingmen Island. Chen Xiu sighed faintly. After our investigation, we found that the everlasting feast hall in Jingmen Island is really mysterious. But it's a pity that we were discovered by the everlasting feast hall's people when we only found out a little bit of information. After repelling the 2 sentinels, we were surrounded by 10 experts of the everlasting feast hall. The average age of these 10 people was in their 30s or 40s. The 10 of them joined hands and easily captured us. He also sent someone to escort us to the everlasting feast hall in Shanghai. What? Han Jintong and Yin Yue exchanged glances and looked aghast at the same time. They were aware of Wei Jiangping and Chen Xiu's strength. In the present era, those who could be their match were very few and far between. How come the Everlasting Feast Hall only sent 10 people to capture the couple? Wasn't this too inconceivable? What Chen Xiu said is true. Wei Jiangping forced a smile and said, "We were injured and captured by them with just 10 people. As a matter of fact, we could sense that their cultivation level was lower than ours. However, their moves were swift and fierce, and the moves they used were very exquisite and deadly. If it were really a fight to the death, I'm afraid they only needed 5 people to kill us in a very short time." Han Jintong shuddered inwardly and asked, "How many experts does the Everlasting Feast Hall have?" "I don't know." Wei Jiangping shook his head and said, "Just the number of people who surrounded us is more than 30. Some of them seem to be experts with unusual identities, yet they didn't even move." Han Jintong was silent for a long while and then faintly said, "We originally thought that after obtaining that cultivation technique and practicing it for decades, our strength would be extremely amazing, and there would be only a few people in this world who could be our opponents. But now we know that we're really sitting in a hole and looking at the sky. The ancient country of China is filled with hidden dragons and crouching tigers, and talented people." Wei Jiangping sighed. "Since there is such an existence like the Everlasting Feast Hall in the country, I'm afraid there are also other powerful forces. Furthermore, I'm afraid it will be as difficult as ascending to the sky if we want to make another breakthrough. Our only hope now is to see our son and daughter who were taken away by her in our lifetime." A glint flashed in Han Jintong's eyes as he asked, "Brother Wei, if we express our goodwill to that Tan Xiu, can we?" Wei Jiangping shook his head and forced a smile. "Brother Han, I think it's best for you to give up this idea. Those people from the Everlasting Feast Hall are by no means good. Besides, I think it will be very difficult to make a breakthrough in our cultivation through the Everlasting Feast Hall, unless we pay an extremely heavy price. I'm not willing to give it up if I don't try it," said Han Jintong. "I'll look for an opportunity to see Tan Xiu again in the future, hoping to get an opportunity to make a breakthrough." Wei Jiangping's expression suddenly moved as he said, "Brother Han, if I remember correctly, your granddaughter and Tan Xiu should have a special relationship." "Qinggu hasn't returned home since the last incident," said Han Jintong helplessly. "Even when I called her to ask about it, she just gave me a perfunctory reply. I only know that Qinggu was Tan Xiu's class teacher in high school. She now teaches at Shanghai University and is also Tan Xiu's class teacher. As for how they get along, I don't know." "All right." Wei Jiangping nodded and said, "Brother Han, I need to go out and deliver the Jade Wind Zither to him. I believe he won't deceive people given his identity." "Go," said Han Jintong. On a certain commercial street in Shanghai, Tan Xiu and Mu Weining went to several shops, yet they still couldn't find a good zither of good quality. With Tang Xiu's eyesight, although he had a few zither and was barely able to play them, the effect of playing the tune was likely to be much worse than expected. Just as the two of them were feeling somewhat helpless, Tan Xiu received a call from Qi Nan and learned that Wei Jiangping had sent a zither to the Everlasting Feast Hall. "I hope that Wei Jiangping has some ability and can help us find a good zither. Otherwise, I can only buy one at random and deal with it at night." Tan Xiu sighed. Mu Weining still looked calm and relaxed as she chuckled and said, "I believe that even if it's a very ordinary zither, you can still play the most wonderful notes." Tan Xiu smiled and drove the car back to the Everlasting Feast Hall. Inside the general manager's office, Qi Nan and Wei Jiangping stood in front of the sofa while the zither was placed on the tea table. However, the zither was wrapped in a silk cloth and its true appearance couldn't be seen. "Is this the zither you sent?" After stepping into the office, Tan Xiu's eyes fell on the tea table. With respect in his eyes, Wei Jiangping nodded and said, "I borrowed it from my old friend's wife. This zither is called the Jade Wind Zither, a work of painstaking effort by a zither master in the Qing dynasty. I don't know anything about zither, so I don't dare to evaluate this zither." Tang Xiu came to the tea table and gently lifted the satin cloth. What appeared in front of him was an exquisitely crafted zither with fine carvings. He could recognize the wood at a glance that it was made of gold-threaded nanmu. Ding! Tan Xiu's fingers slid on the zither's strings, producing pleasant notes. This zither is barely good. Tan Xiu nodded. He then looked at Wei Jiangping and said, "You can go now. Come here tomorrow night to get the zither." Wei Jiangping hesitated for a moment and opened his mouth to speak. But after seeing Tan Xiu's indifferent expression, he swallowed back the words he wanted to say. He nodded silently and then turned to leave. Tan Xiu wrapped the jade wind zither in the silk cloth again. After picking it up, he said, "Qi Nan, if you come to Shanghai University tonight, wait for my performance and bring this zither back. Also, I need to tell you one thing. Help me find some good nannies for colorless." "Understood," said Qi Nan respectfully. "I'll contact them later." "All right." Tan Xiu nodded. After leaving the everlasting feast hall with Mu Weining, they didn't directly return to the campus but went to the Blue Star Villa complex instead. There were still 3 or 4 hours before the freshman welcoming party in the evening, so after discussing it, they decided to take a break first and have dinner before rushing to the campus. Inside the villa, Mu Weining picked up the phone and smilingly said, "Tan Xiu, the freshman welcoming party tonight should be very interesting." "What do you mean?" Tan Xiu raised his brows and asked. "A friend of mine just called me and said that a certain leader of the campus contacted Zhang Xinya, who is currently preparing for her concert in Shanghai, through a special relationship. I heard that the opening song of the freshman welcoming party tonight will be Zhang Xinya's performance," said Mu Weining with a smile. "Today's second chapter is presented to me. Please support me with a guaranteed monthly ticket." Chapter 432. Tang Xiu stared blankly for a moment upon hearing it. He had been hearing Zhang Xinya's name a lot in recent days. Even the billboards in many places in Shanghai were all her endorsements. Could it be that she was really that popular now? Mu Weining, the school invited a celebrity to the freshman welcoming party. Mu Weining chuckled and said, "There has never been such a precedent in the past. But it's a coincidence this time. Someone happened to know Zhang Xinya, so she was invited." Tan Xiu nodded and said, "The current celebrity effect seems to be helpful to the school. The school may take this opportunity to publicize it better." Mu Weining said with a smile, "Nowadays, all the famous schools are competing fiercely to recruit outstanding students. The school has just started, so the school may not need it. But it's hard to say next year. With a living signboard like Zhang Xinya, I'm sure it will attract a lot of outstanding students." Tan Xiu smiled and couldn't help but shake his head. Going to school. In today's era, being a student or not was no longer important. Even if they had a good diploma in the future, so what? They would still have to worry about finding a job and work for others. He once heard others say that many students would rather enter the society and learn a craft earlier than studying for 3 to 4 years in school. Of course, Tan Xiu didn't agree with this theory. The knowledge in school was the foundation, while learning a craft was practice. If smart students could combine the two and master the textbook knowledge, they would also find time to practice. This was the smartest choice. In the evening, Tan Xiu and Mu Weining ordered takeout and ate in the villa. After tidying up, they drove to the campus. Yu Kai and the others had been waiting for a long time. "Big bro Tang, great beauty Mu, why are you?" A strange expression hung on Yu Kai's beautiful face, which carried a seductive charm. "I saw Mu Weining at noon," Tan Xiu explained casually. "She followed me out of the campus and helped me buy a zither outside." "Did you buy it?" Yu Kai asked curiously. "The quality of the zither sold in those shops is not good, so I borrowed one." Tan Xiu shook his head. Yu Kai laughed and said, "It's up to you tonight. Don't lose face for our dormitory." With a faint smile, Tan Xiu turned to look at Mu Weining and asked, "Are you going directly to the school auditorium with us? Or?" Mu Weining said, "I'll go back to the dorm first. They should be waiting for me in the dormitory." Tan Xiao looked at Yu Kai and Hu Qingsong and said, one of you drive her back. If we walk from here to the girls' dormitory, it will take quite a while. Damn! Damn! Yu Kai and Hu Qingsong shouted in unison. Mu Weining glanced at Tan Xiao and softly said, I don't need you to send me off. I'll walk there myself. Finished. She turned to leave. As Mu Weining's figure disappeared at the corner of the distant path, Yu Kai glared at Hu Qingsong and shouted, Mu Weining is mine. Don't fight with me over her. Hu Qingsong also widened his eyes and angrily shouted, that's what I wanted to tell you. Mu Weining is mine. Don't fight with me over her. Tan Xiao looked at the two men staring at each other and immediately let out a wry smile, can't you two be good? It's just a trivial matter. Xue Chao nodded in agreement and muttered, that's right. It's just a trivial matter. Besides, Mu Weining obviously likes eldest bro Tang. She won't even look at you even if you two fight until you break your scalps. Shut up. You shut up. Yu Kai and Hu Qingsong immediately shouted at Xue Chao. Then, the two men exchanged glances with resentful expressions on their faces. They were not fools. How could they not see that Mu Weining was interested in Tan Xiao? But they were reluctant to part with such a great beauty. Hu Qingsong was silent for a while. Then, he suddenly turned to look at Tan Xiao and seriously said, eldest bro Tang, lend me your Audi A8 for 3 days. What do you mean? Tan Xiao stared blankly and asked with a confused expression. I'll give the great beauty Mu to you, said Hu Qingsong. Please don't give her to me. Tan Xiao was at a loss whether he had to cry or laugh. I don't have any interest in Mu Weining. Go ahead and chase her if you like her. Unless you disappear from Earth, do you think we have a chance? Hu Qingsong angrily said. Rather than wasting my time, it's better to be smart and extort some benefits from you. Cut the crap. I'll give you 3 big meals and lend me your Audi A8 for 3 days. I'll change my target later. Why do I feel like I'm a sucker? Tan Xiao forced a wry smile. Forget it. It's your business whether you want to chase her or not. I'll give you the car key at any time. Are you satisfied? Hu Qingsong nodded with satisfaction. He reached out to hug Tan Xiao's shoulder and smilingly said, eldest bro Tang is really forthright. What about you, Yu Kai? You won't give up until you reach the Yellow River, will you? If you don't give up, then continue chasing her. I really want to see you hit your head and bleed, yet you end up with nothing. Scram! Yu Kai pointed his middle finger at him. He then looked at Tan Xiao and said, eldest bro Tang, I'll give you 6 big meals and lend me your Range Rover for 6 days. Tan Xiao rolled his eyes and threw the car key to Yu Kai, saying, if any of you tell this to Zhao Yang, I'll nullify my promise to you. Yu Kai looked happy and grinningly took the car key. He blew a kiss to Tan Xiao and smilingly said, only a fool would tell such a good thing to Zhao Yang. That brat may be handsome, but there's still a big gap between him and me. He won't have a chance. But eldest bro Tang, are you really not going to pursue Mu Weining? She's the best-looking woman I've ever seen. She has the best figure and the best temperament. Tan Xiao rolled his eyes and smilingly scolded, I'm really not interested. I think our top priority now is to study. Besides studying, we should think about the future. It would be best if we can spare some time to do some business. Yu Kai couldn't help laughing and said, eldest bro Tang, we came to the university to study. Do you really want to study hard? As for doing business, don't joke with me. Even if we have the capital, we don't have the direction. Eldest bro Tang is talking in his sleep. Hu Qingsong grinned. How about we give him a punch to wake him up? It's simply a joke for a college student to do business. Tan Xiao was speechless. He felt that if he told them that he had been doing business since he was in high school, would their eyes pop out? Let's go. Let's go to the university auditorium. In order to not attract attention, they didn't drive but strolled toward the university auditorium. When they came inside, they found that seats had been arranged according to each department and each class. The auditorium, which could accommodate nearly 10,000 people, was already half full at this time. Eldest Bro Tang, you have to go backstage. The members of each class who will participate in the performance must go to the backstage to sign in. Additionally, the backstage is specially provided for the students to rest. You can come to the front after you finish your performance, said Hu Qingsong. Tang Xiu, who was holding the zither, nodded in response. After asking around, he quickly arrived at the corridor at the back of the auditorium. He saw many busy students and some well-behaved students from classes. He followed the names of the faculties and classes that were marked on the doors of each room and easily found where the students from his class who were participating in the performance were. Are you holding a zither, Tan Xiu? A delicate and pretty girl, who was putting on makeup, immediately turned her head and asked curiously when she saw Tan Xiu sitting next to her. Yeah, it's a zither, said Tan Xiu with a smile. You're going to perform a zither? Asked the girl. I'll play and sing, said Tan Xiu. The girl raised her thumb and praised, you're really amazing. There's even a boy who can play the zither nowadays. Furthermore, you're going to play and sing. Do you have a good singing voice? It's just a so-so, said Tan Xiu with a light smile. The girl nodded and no longer talked to Tan Xiu, continuing to put on makeup. At this time, there were more than a dozen classmates in the room who were either putting on makeup or sharpening their skills to familiarize themselves with the upcoming performance. After sitting down, Tan Xiu took out his mobile phone and played with it. For him, he didn't need to practice the performance at all. He could directly play and sing. At this time, in another room only tens of meters away from the backstage rest area of the history department, several makeup artists were surrounding Zhang Xinya and putting on makeup for her. Behind her, a middle-aged woman with a forced smile on her face looked outside the door from time to time. Creak. The door was pushed open and a leader of Shanghai University came in with the same forced smile on his face. He quickly glanced at Zhang Xinya and then looked at the middle-aged woman and said, I can't find her. Shanghai University isn't a music academy after all, so there are too few teachers and students who know how to play the zither. Also, I've already sent someone outside the campus to look for her, but I don't know if it's too late. The middle-aged woman frowned and said, Vice President Li, we must find someone who can play the zither. We forgot the accompaniment music in our residence. Even if we go back now, I'm afraid it's too late. So. The middle-aged Vice President Li sighed helplessly. Just as he and the middle-aged woman were at their wits' end, a school teacher quickly came to the room with a program list and shouted, I found her. A student from our campus has signed up for a program that involves playing the zither and singing. How about we ask him to come and give it a try? Vice President Li looked happy and quickly took the program list. After seeing the content on it, he immediately said, then hurry up and find him. We can only try it as a last resort in this situation. Zhang Xinya, who was having her makeup done, slightly frowned and said with a displeased expression, What are you talking about, Vice President Li? What do you mean by trying it as a last resort? Our singing style belongs to the ancient style. Although the student signed up for a program that involves playing the zither and singing, it's hard to say whether he can help us or not. Besides, there's only half an hour left before the freshman welcoming party of Shanghai University. I'm afraid the effect won't be very good even if we try to get used to it. Chapter 433. Vice President Li understood that what Zhang Xinya said made sense. After hesitating for a moment, he forced a smile and said, Xinya, there's nothing we can do about it. We only have two choices now. Either you change the song and we directly download the accompaniment music from the internet, or let that student named Tan Xiu accompany you. Then, Zhang Xinya said with an indifferent expression. But just as the words came out, her expression slightly stagnated. She quickly turned around and grabbed the program list. She quickly glanced through it and saw a familiar name. Tan Xiu. Could it be him? Zhang Xinya took a deep breath and seriously said, I need to see this student named Tan Xiu. I'll send someone to call him. Vice President Li nodded. In the history department's lounge, Tan Xiu was browsing the internet when he heard someone calling his name. He slowly turned his head and glanced at the other party. He got up and walked over, asking, I'm Tan Xiu. You are. The woman looked happy and quickly said, Hello, student Tan Xiu. I'm a teacher from the Academic Affairs Office of the university. You can call me Teacher Wang. Anyways, we need your help with something. Can you come with me? What is it? Tan Xiu was confused. You'll know the details after you come with me, said the woman. Vice President Li of Shanghai University is waiting for you in another lounge. All right. Tan Xiu nodded. He turned around and picked up his zither, following the female teacher to leave the classroom. Quickly. When Tan Xiu appeared at the door of Zhang Xinya's room, Zhang Xinya's eyes suddenly lit up. There was even a faint excitement in her eyes. Under the confused gazes of Vice President Li and her agent, she strode toward Tan Xiu and excitedly shouted, I didn't expect to see you here, Tan Xiu. That's great. Tan Xiu glanced at the situation in the room and then said with a smile, I heard from my classmates that you'll be the mystery guest of our Shanghai University and will sing for the first time after the opening of the freshman welcoming party. I heard that you'll be holding a concert in Shanghai in a few days. Zhang Xinya smiled and said, Yeah. It just so happened that I knew Vice Principal Li before, so I was invited to your school. That's great. Let's get together after the welcoming party. I'll treat you to supper. Tan Xiu smiled and said, Forget it. The dormitory closes very early at night. It'll be troublesome if you come back late. Zhang Xinya said without hesitation, It's okay. If the dormitory closes early, then we can go to the hotel and get a room. Get a room? At this moment, in the room, Associate Professor Li, the middle-aged woman's agent, the female teacher who had brought Tan Xiu here, and several makeup artists were all dumbfounded as they looked at Zhang Xinya in disbelief. Never in their wildest dreams did they expect that Zhang Xinya actually knew Tan Xiu. They didn't expect that Zhang Xinya would actually say that she wanted to go to the hotel with Tan Xiu to get a room. Who was Zhang Xinya? She was the most popular superstar nowadays. Not only was she popular in China, but she was also popular all over Asia. Her influence was also very big all over the world. Xinya, watch your words. The agent quickly reminded her. Zhang Xinya looked at her and said with a smile, It's all right, Sister Chen. Tan Xiu and I are very good friends. Moreover, he has helped me a lot. A forced smile appeared on the agent's face when she heard it. Immediately, Zhang Xinya looked at Tan Xiu and said with a smile, Tan Xiu, I'm afraid I'll have to trouble you tonight. I need a zither to accompany the song I'm singing. Tan Xiu was puzzled and asked, Do you need me to accompany the music? Don't you have? Zhang Xinya said helplessly, The music I recorded for that song is on a CD, but I forgot to bring it. Help me, please. I'll treat you to supper tonight. Tan Xiu hesitated for a moment before he nodded and said, All right. But I don't understand modern music scores. You should be able to play the zither accompaniment, right? Yes. Zhang Xinya quickly nodded. Then play it twice. I need to listen to it, said Tan Xiu. Then, we'll try to cooperate. If there's no problem, I'll play the zither accompaniment for you when you sing on the stage. No problem. Zhang Xinya's smile was particularly bright. She turned to look at Vice President Li and said, Do you want to go out first? Vice President Li hesitated for a moment. He was a bit worried. Although he didn't understand music, he didn't believe that Tan Xiu could learn it when Tan Xiu asked Zhang Xinya to play it twice. Moreover, Tan Xiu didn't even understand music scores, yet he signed up to play the zither and sing. This was simply a joke. Xinya, we'll listen on the side. We won't disturb you. Zhang Xinya hesitated for a moment before she simply ignored them. She took the zither from Tan Xiu and put it on the table. Then, She said with a smile, Tan Xiu, can you learn it after listening to me play it twice? I don't know. I'll try my best. Tan Xiu shook his head. Vice President Li pursed his lips, while the manager directly rolled his eyes. They couldn't understand why Zhang Xinya would agree to such an absurd proposal from Tan Xiu. The makeup artists, on the other hand, stood at the side with overflowing interest as they observed Tang Xiu smilingly. They had a good impression of the handsome Tan Xiu. Ding! The zither's melody was full of classical style, melodious and graceful, fluttering in the entire room. Tan Xiu's eyes were fixated on Zhang Xinya's fingers playing the zither, as well as the strings. His ears trembled from time to time as he quickly memorized the zither's melody. The song ended. Zhang Xinya turned her head and asked, how was it? Tan Xiu nodded and said, 7 or 8 points. Play it again. All right. There was a bit of worship in Zhang Xinya's eyes. She complied and played it again. Then, she got up and asked with a smile, how about now? Tan Xiu closed his eyes and silently recalled for half a minute. He then nodded and said, it's about right. After saying that, he sat down at the place where Zhang Xinya had just sat. He closed his eyes again and put his fingers on the zither's strings. After a few seconds, his fingers began to slide. The beautiful zither's melody was melodious and full of spirituality. He handled the transition between the notes very well, like floating clouds and flowing water, and quickly played the dubbing. Amazing! Too amazing! Zhang Xinya's eyes were sparkling, and the worship in her eyes was even more intense. She had seen many talented musicians, but she had never seen one as amazing as Tan Xiu. He was able to play it just by listening to it twice. Moreover, his playing was very beautiful. Although, there were a few flaws in the entire song played by Tan Xiu. But to be able to do it to this extent was simply a god. At the side, Vice President Li only felt that Tan Xiu's playing was very good, and his level was almost the same as Zhang Xinya's. But the agent was different. She also knew music, and she used to be a music teacher. Naturally, she could tell how good Tan Xiu was at Tan Xiu's playing. At this time, if she didn't know that Tan Xiu had never heard this song before, she would almost suspect that Tan Xiu had secretly learned it. It must be noted that this song was written by a very famous musician for several months for Zhang Xinya. Musical genius? Evildoer? The agent didn't know how to describe her current mood at the moment. Tan Xiu faintly smiled and said, I think there are still a few places that weren't handled very well. How about you play it again? I'll pay attention to the way you handle it. Zhang Xinya smiled and said, no problem. After saying that, she began to play again. Tang Xiu, on the other hand, directly released his spiritual sense to listen and watch with rapt attention. He constantly memorized the problems in playing this piece of music, as well as the way Zhang Xinya dealt with several turning points. Finally, when Zhang Xinya finished playing, Tan Xiu said with a smile, it's almost done. I'll play and you sing. Let's rehearse. Okay. Zhang Xinya made a gesture and gave her seat to Tan Xiu again. She listened to Tan Xiu playing the zither and began to sing softly. The zither's sound was beautiful, and the singing was moving. Although it was the first time for the two of them to work together, it was as if they had been working together for many years. It was simply flawless. At the end of the last note, the manager clapped his hands vigorously. Her eyes were full of shock and a bit of excitement. She quickly said, Classmate Tang, can we discuss something? What is it? Tan Xiu asked. The agent quickly said, sign a contract with me and be a singer under my company. I guarantee that the contract I'll give you won't be much worse than Xinya's. Pfft, Zhang Xinya couldn't help but burst into laughter upon hearing it. Tan Xiu was at a loss whether to cry or laugh. I'm sorry, I don't have much interest in music. Besides, our university's vice principal Li is here. Aren't you afraid that he'll be angry if you poach him so openly? Vice Principal Li was confused, What's going on? Could it be that Tan Xiao is good at playing? The agent sighed. Vice Principal Li, classmate Tang's playing is more than good. He's simply amazing to the extreme. The mood and tune of the zither song are exactly the same as the original one. I even feel that it's a bit more spiritual than the original one. I dare say that he is definitely a musical genius, one that surpasses the ancients and surpasses the contemporaries. There is no one better than him. Tan Xiao was a bit embarrassed by the praise. He raised his hand to touch the bridge of his nose and forced a wry smile inwardly. Vice Principal Li was surprised. Is he really that amazing? The agent said, would I poach him in front of you if he wasn't that amazing? Vice Principal Li, let's make a deal. As long as you expel Tan Xiao, I'll give you anything you want. Vice Principal Li was shocked. He looked at Tan Xiao and then at the agent. Then, he forced a smile and said, Tan Xiao is a student of Shanghai University. I won't expel him without permission. Besides, even you care about him so much. I can't bear to part with such an outstanding student. Ha ha ha. Boring. The agent gave Vice Principal Li a supercilious look. Chapter 434. Big Sis Chen, don't have any ideas about Tan Xiao. Zhang Xinya smiled tenderly. No matter how good your promise is, he won't agree to it. Alright, we've found the right person and it's almost time for the freshman welcoming party. You can go busy yourselves first. We'll go on the stage and perform when the host calls us. Alright. Vice Principal Li smiled after hearing it. Afterward, the makeup artists continued to do Zhang Xinya's makeup, while Tan Xiao stroked the zither strings and recalled the scene of him playing the zither in the immortal world. The scenes of the past were filled with sweetness and heartbreak. You know, Tan Xiao. I didn't have many idols since I was young because I'm very smart and there are only a few people who are smarter than me. But you've become my idol. I dare say that you'll definitely become a big star in a very short time if you enter the entertainment circle. Zhang Xinya sat there and said with a smile while receiving her makeup. Tan Xiao came back to his senses and lightly smiled. I'm not interested in being a star. I'm a student now, and my studies are more important. I know you don't care about being a star. Zhang Xinya smiled. It's just that I'm a bit regretful after what just happened. Let's have a deal. You'll be mine after the freshman welcoming party tonight. If your dormitory closes, we'll go to open a hotel. Zhang Xinya, can you stop saying, we'll open a hotel, all the time? Tan Xiao helplessly said. People will misunderstand. I don't care about it, but you're a girl and a big star. You need to be careful. What are you afraid of? Zhang Xinya smiled. I might care a lot if it's a scandal with someone else. But I don't care if it's a scandal with you. If worst comes to worst, I'll announce that you're my boyfriend so that others won't have crooked thoughts about me in the future. Don't. Tan Xiao forced a smile and said, please do a good deed and let me go. You're a big star now, a goddess in many men's minds. If you announce that I'm your boyfriend, I'm afraid I'll get cockroaches when I eat, get hit on the head when I walk, and have people pour cold water on me even when I'm sleeping. Hee. Zhang Xinya couldn't help but smile brightly. As time passed by, the freshman welcoming party of Shanghai University finally began. Following the speech of the university leaders, the host stood under the spotlight and looked at the dense crowd of teachers and students below. He said with a smile, tonight, the leaders of Shanghai University have invited a mysterious guest to add a festive atmosphere to our freshman welcoming party. Do you want to know who this mysterious guest is? The thousands of new students below, as well as many of the older students, all revealed confused expressions. Other than a few people, the others shook their heads, indicating that they were not sure. The host said with a smile, since everyone can't guess it, then let me announce it. I believe that once I say her name, you will be very excited, very happy. Even the current me was already very happy, and I couldn't wait to see her performance. Next, let's welcome our international superstar, Miss Zhang Xinya, to perform a classical song, Desert Oasis. Zhang Xinya, dressed in an evening gown, walked in from the backstage side door. As the spotlight shone on her, she stood on the stage with a smile. My God! I'm not dreaming, am I? Is it really Zhang Xinya? God! I'm so excited. Zhang Xinya actually came to our university. She's even going to be the first singer of this year's freshman welcoming party. Can someone pinch me? I want to know if I'm dreaming or not. Goddess. I've finally seen the goddess of my dreams. Zhang Xinya, I love you. All the students in the school auditorium were boiling with excitement. Everyone stood up from their seats and waved their arms with all their might. They shouted and shouted, vividly expressing their excitement. Zhang Xinya held the microphone and stood under the spotlight. She smiled and said, "Thank you, everyone. I'm very honored to be invited by the leaders of Shanghai University to participate in this year's freshman welcoming party. Looking at your youthful faces, looking at your adorable appearance, to tell the truth, I am very happy to see you all. Shanghai University is one of the key universities in the country. The students who can get into this university are all elites among the students and will be the pillars of society in the future. Today, I've brought a new song to everyone. I hope everyone will like it." After that, as the audience gradually quietened down, all the students also sat down. The melodious sound of the zither rang out. In the whistling north wind, the notes created a desolate atmosphere. In an instant, all the teachers and students in the university auditorium felt as if they were looking at an endless desert, with yellow sand flying all over the sky. There was a place that appeared in my dream. It was a paradise in the vast desert. Accompanied by the sound of the zither, Zhang Xinya held the microphone and sang affectionately. Her voice was very beautiful. With the accompaniment of the fascinating zither, it was as if everyone was pulled into the endless desert. Gradually, with the continuous ups and downs of her singing, everyone's eyes suddenly lit up. They saw an oasis in the desert full of yellow sand. 4 or 5 minutes passed. When Zhang Xinya's singing ended and the last note of the zither dissipated in the air, everyone in the auditorium stood up one after another. They waved their arms excitedly and shouted, "One more song." Zhang Xinya was not in a hurry to get off the stage. Instead, she stood under the spotlight and said with a smile, "Actually, I also want to play one more song, but today is your festival after all. There are still many people waiting to perform, so I won't waste everyone's time. If you like me, please wait for my concert in Shanghai New World Center in 4 days. I look forward to everyone's coming." After that, she left in the midst of everyone's cheers. Behind her, Tan Xiu had already put away the zither. Looking at Zhang Xinya who was walking over, he smiled and gave her a thumbs up. He praised, "You sang very well." Zhang Xinya had a bright smile on her face. Originally, she thought that there was no excitement in coming to Shanghai University to perform. If it wasn't for her friend's invitation, she wouldn't even want to come. However, the situation was different now. She saw Tan Xiu, the person she really wanted to see. "You played very well too," Zhang Xinya said with a smile. Tan Xiu smiled indifferently. He picked up the zither and said, "I'll go back first. I still have a performance later, so I need to prepare for it." Zhang Xinya's eyes lit up and she hurriedly said, "I've already finished my performance. How about I go with you?" Tan Xiu shook his head and said with a smile, "No. If you go with me, you'll make my classmates quarrel with me for a long time. You should go and rest first. Or you can go to the front to watch the show." Zhang Xinya was a bit disappointed, but she still nodded and said, "Then I'll go to the front to watch the show. I'm looking forward to your performance." Tan Xiu nodded with a smile. When he returned to the history department's lounge, he saw Han Qinggu frowning, not knowing what she was thinking. "Where have you been, Tan Xiu?" Han Qinggu immediately asked when she saw Tan Xiu come in. Tan Xiu said, "The university's leader just looked for me and asked me to help." I just finished my work, so I came back. Han Qinggu already knew that Tan Xiu was called away by the university's leader, so she nodded and curiously asked after hearing Tan Xiu's words, "What kind of help did they ask you to do?" Tan Xiu said, "To accompany someone else." Accompaniment? Han Qinggu stared blankly for a moment. When she saw the zither Tan Xiu was holding, a thought flashed in her mind and she exclaimed, "Zhang Xinya's accompaniment just now was you." Tan Xiu hurriedly cleaned up and then said in a low voice, "Don't shout. Do you want everyone to pay attention to me?" Han Qinggu knew Tan Xiu's low-key character and immediately praised in a low voice, "You're really amazing. I thought that the zither accompaniment just now was a recorded zither song. I didn't expect that it was actually played by you. How about it? Is Zhang Xinya beautiful?" Tan Xiu was silent for a moment and said, "She's a bit prettier than you." "You," Han Qinggu was furious, but the occasion was not right. Although she was so angry that she wanted to bite Tan Xiu, she could only endure it on this occasion. However, she still moved closer to Tan Xiu and twisted his waist. Then, she turned around and said, "Your program is ranked 17th. Listen carefully and wait at the backstage door when you're called." Tan Xiu didn't feel any pain, but when he saw Han Qinggu's venting expression before she turned around, he secretly smiled bitterly in his heart. He didn't want to provoke Han Qinggu, but she always appeared in front of him. Inside the auditorium. In the corner of the last row, Qi Nan crossed her arms and leaned against the aisle with a faint smile hanging on the corner of her mouth. As the saying goes, the pavilion closest to the water enjoys the moonlight first. She was in Shanghai and often followed Tan Xiu around, so she knew a lot of things about Tan Xiu. Just like now. If those people from the Everlasting Feast Hall knew that Tan Xiu would perform in the auditorium of Shanghai University tonight, it was likely that all of them would want to come and watch it. But in the end, she was the only one who could enjoy her boss's performance. She was looking forward to it. Looking forward to her boss's wonderful performance. In the rows of seats. Mu Weining was sitting in one of the rows of seats with a smile on her face. She listened to her 3 dormitory sisters whispering to each other while looking forward to Tan Xiu's performance inwardly. Suddenly, Jiang Fian turned her head to look at Mu Weining and said, "Big sis Weining, I remember that Tan Xiu will also participate in tonight's performance, right? When will he appear?" Li Xinjie and Hu Wei exchanged glances before they also shifted their eyes to Mu Weining. "How would I know?" Mu Weining said with a smile. "I'm looking forward to Tan Xiu's performance. I believe he will make a lot of people look at him in a new light." Jiang Fian said. "Fian, you think too highly of Tan Xiu, don't you?" Li Xinjie said with a charming smile. "I heard that he's going to perform on the zither. Do you think it'll be good for a man to play the zither and sing at the same time?" Hu Wei also said, "Let's just look around. After all, Tang Xiu is a boy. There are very few boys who can play the zither nowadays, and those who can play it well are even fewer. So let's not have too much hope. It's a pity that Xue Chao has no talent show." Chapter 435. Li Xinjie looked at Hu Wei with a strange expression and said, "Wei Wei, don't tell me you really like Xue Chao." A smile outlined on the corner of Hu Wei's mouth as she said, "So what if I like him? Don't look down on him. Children living in the mountains are the most simple. I don't need him to be handsome or rich when I look for a boyfriend. I'm willing as long as he's a good person." Li Xinjie nodded thoughtfully and said, "You're right, Wei Wei. It's superficial to use money to measure a person and evaluate a person based on their appearance. Xue Chao is simple and honest. I think he's really good." Mu Weining stared blankly. She turned to Hu Wei and shook her head, saying, "Wei Wei, you and Xue Chao are not suitable for each other." Hu Wei frowned and said, "Sis Weining, why do you think we're not suitable for each other?" "I think we're quite suitable." Mu Weining sighed, "If you knew Xue Chao many years ago and took the initiative to pursue him, maybe you two would be suitable for each other. But now you're really not suitable for each other. Give me a reason." Hu Wei said with a displeased expression. I went out with Tan Xiu this afternoon and talked about some topics, one of which was Xue Chao, said Mu Weining. Xue Chao is married. Not only does he have a wife, but he also has a child. Don't tell me you want to be a third party in someone else's marriage. What did you say? Hu Wei suddenly stood up with an incredulous look on her face. Xue Chao has a wife and a child. Do you want me to repeat it again? As a matter of fact, Xue Chao fell in love with his wife when they were in high school, but they didn't get a marriage certificate. Now, not only did they get a marriage certificate, but they also have a child. A few days ago, Xue Chao was injured by a gangster because he was a good Samaritan. Tan Xiu went to the hospital to see him and brought the family of 3 to Tan Xiu's villa to live for some time. So, Wei Wei, you should give up. Hu Wei was stunned for a long while before a disappointed look appeared on her face. She was indeed moved by Xue Chao. Although she didn't have many feelings for him, Xue Chao's words and actions, as well as his innocent heart, really attracted her. In the other area, Yu Kai crossed his legs and looked at the students performing on the stage. He shook his head and said, their performance level is just so-so. They can barely make it in our school's freshman welcoming party. But if it's on the big stage, they won't be able to do it. I don't know how good eldest brother Tang's performance is, but it would be very disappointing if it's only at this level. Zhao Liang, who came later, rolled his eyes and said, I don't like what you just said, Yu Kai. If eldest bro Tang can show this level, he's already qualified. Big bro Tang can of the zither, can you? Yu Kai said resentfully, that's because I didn't learn it. Kai muttered. Wei can learn it if you, big of. If you want to pick up girls, you can continue learning. But I don't believe you can learn to play the piano. An angry expression appeared on Yu Kai's face as he waved his fist at Xue Chao. Then, he lowered his head in silence. Hu Qingsong said with a smile, we're just here to join in the fun. Big bro Tang didn't sign up by himself. He was tricked by Beauty Mu, so don't expect him to perform well. I think that if he can play a complete song smoothly, it would be enough for him to sing a few lines. Tens of meters away, several girls were gathered together and discussing the topic of Zhang Xinya's first song. Yi Lianyan, however, didn't join them. She folded her arms and quietly watched the performance of the students on the stage. It was a summer vacation. She quickly transformed and grew up. Although she came to Shanghai University to study, she had been thinking about the issue Tan Xiu once told her that he hoped she could go to Nine Dragons Island to work in the future. Yi Lianyan knew that Tang Xiu was a great man, but she was somewhat regretful now. She regretted not asking clearly about Tang Xiu's business and which city he would often live in. Moreover, what made her feel helpless was that she accidentally lost her mobile phone, and Tang Xiu's cell number was also lost. Therefore, she planned to go to Jingmen Island again during the National Day holiday to find Mo Iwan and ask for Tang Xiu's number. What are you thinking about, third sister? A girl at the side touched Yi Lianyan's arm and asked with a smile. Yi Lianyan realized that she was distracted again. She immediately shook her head and smiled, nothing. The performance on the stage is just so, so I don't want to watch it anymore. How about we go back to the dormitory? Or we can go to the campus library. The girl said, don't. It'll be a big loss if Zhang Xinya comes out to sing again. Let's wait for a while. You've been studying hard every day. Even when you go to the military training, you still have time to read the textbooks. I think you're turning into a nerd. It's good to read more books and learn skills so that you can have a better job in the future, said Yi Lianyan with a smile. The girl giggled, what job? Third sister, you're quite good-looking. When the time comes, you can hook a rich husband and you won't have to worry about food and drink for the rest of your life. Yi Lianyan rolled her eyes at her and said, rather than relying on heaven, earth, parents, and men, it's better to rely on myself. I'm a person with a goal. What goal? Several girls gathered their heads. Yi Lianyan clenched her fists and confidently said, "The wealth I have in the future must be 1/10 of his." "Who is he?" the three girls asked at the same time. "You won't know even if I tell you," Yi Lianyan said with a smile. Bah! 3 middle fingers were raised and they no longer discussed this topic. The performances in the auditorium ended one by one. Soon, it was Tan Xiu's turn. The host announced, "Next, Tan Xiu, a freshman from the history department of our university, will be giving us the performance of Immortal Dream on the zither. Let's welcome Tan Xiu." In the auditorium, Qi Nan's eyes lit up. Mu Weining and the other girls stopped moving, while Yu Kai and the others stared with wide eyes. Yi Lianyan was stunned for a moment before she shook her head, thinking that it was just someone with the same name. However, when a familiar figure walked onto the stage and came before the zither that had been placed, Yi Lianyan abruptly stood up and looked incredulously at Tan Xiu, who was sitting in front of the zither. To prove that her eyes were not playing tricks on her, she raised her arm and rubbed her eyes hard. It's really him. He's also a freshman from Shanghai University." After confirming that she was not dreaming, Yi Lianyan was so excited that her body trembled. If it weren't for Tan Xiu's upcoming performance, she would have rushed to Tan Xiu and asked him why he didn't tell her that he was also a freshman from Shanghai University. At the side of the performance stage, Han Qinggu crossed her arms and quietly looked at Tan Xiu's side profile. In a dark corner a dozen meters away from her, Zhang Xinya, who was wearing a mask and a cap, stared unblinkingly at Tan Xiu with her bright eyes. In front of the zither, Tan Xiu sat in a chair. As the lights gradually dimmed, only a spotlight shone on him. His eyes slowly swept across the teachers and students below the stage. Then, he slowly closed his eyes under everyone's gaze. A few seconds later, his eyes suddenly opened, and his fingers slid across the zither strings like flowing water. The sound of flowing water and the laughter of white birds flowed along with the sound of the zither. A heart-trembling zither sound pulled everyone into a wondrous world in just a dozen or so seconds. There were green mountains and clear waters, waterfalls and colorful butterflies. It was like a fairyland in a dream. On a mountain peak surrounded by clouds and mist, someone sat cross-legged and played the zither. In the beautiful and soul-trembling zither sound, white birds danced and chirped cheerfully. Boom! Standing on the side of the performance stage, Han Qinggu, with her arms crossed, suddenly trembled. Her pupils contracted instantly, and her body tensed up in an instant. Familiar. She heard a familiar melody from the sound of the zither. She was sure that she had never heard this kind of zither sound before, but for some reason, she did feel an inexplicable familiarity. Then, under the pull of the sound of the zither, Han Qinggu felt that the world in front of her disappeared. When her vision became clear again, she was already standing on the top of the mountain. She saw herself, a woman who was almost identical to herself, standing next to the person playing the zither and dancing. The white dress fluttered, the fairy-like figure danced, like a fairy from the 9th heaven, dancing to the sound of the zither. Time flies, immortals and mortals are like a dream. The strange tone allowed everyone to understand the meaning of the song. Han Qinggu looked at the dancing fairy from a strange perspective and stared at the back of the person playing the zither. Before the singing started, her mouth had already started chanting a step ahead of it. It was as if she already knew the lyrics, knew the magical notes. At the same time, it was as if a bolt of lightning flashed in her mind. In that moment of sudden brightness, fragments flew out from the gap of the light like dancing butterflies. It was as if the memories of the past had merged with the fairy-like world in front of her. In the vast immortal sea, I fall in love. The beauty of a city, dancing in my dream of immortality. The tender song echoed. From the sound of the zither, everyone could hear the love of the person playing the zither, the deep love he had for the dancing woman. Time. It seemed to freeze at this moment. The warmth of love seemed to nourish everyone. Gradually, everyone was immersed in it. Tan Xiu, who was playing the zither and singing, recalled the scenes of the past, and his fingers played more and more fluently. As the scenes of the past kept floating in his mind, when the song was about to end, the scenes in his mind suddenly changed. Tribulation. Ambushed. A familiar friend, a beloved woman. The anger of being betrayed suddenly exploded in his chest. As the sound of the zither changed, the world in front of everyone changed rapidly as well. Monstrous evil, a hell of blood and mountains of corpses. In an instant, everyone screamed, regardless of whether they were in that hellish world or in the auditorium in reality. I'll update 2 chapters today, please guarantee the monthly votes. There should be one more chapter tonight. If the monthly votes exceed 100 by 8 p.m. tonight, Quiet Night will try to release 3 more chapters tonight, paying off all the chapters from last month in one go. Chapter 436. The sudden change from heaven to hell caused everyone's expression to change as they cried out involuntarily. The world in front of everyone's eyes also changed from a fairyland of birds and flowers to a ferocious azure hell. Terrifying. Trembling. On the side of the stage, Han Qingwu's body swayed and she suddenly fell to the ground. Although the scene in front of her had turned into a horrifying hellish scene, it was not this that made her afraid, but the memory fragments that burst out in her mind. The mountain peak where the cold wind blew. The glacier that was covered in white snow. Familiar yet strange faces, figures that possessed the power to destroy the heavens and earth. She couldn't tell which was real and which was just an illusion. She didn't know why these fragmented images would appear in her mind. In the boundless sky. Bolts of terrifying lightning struck down, accompanied by thunderous explosions that shook people's hearts. The speed of the wind, the violence of the rain, the roar of the thunder, and the devastation of the lightning. The horrifying images formed an apocalyptic world. She saw it. She saw that in this apocalyptic world, a stalwart figure stood in the air, sweeping through the sky full of sword shadows, destroying the siege of wind, rain, thunder, and lightning, sweeping away the waves of the apocalypse. No, Han Qingwu saw herself, saw the men who possessed the power to destroy heaven and earth. At this moment, she did not know why she was in so much pain that she wanted to die immediately, but she still launched an attack against the stalwart figure. Clang, the last thunderous note of the zither exploded in Han Qingwu's ears. She was drowned in the waves of pain, the memory fragments in her mind turned into specks of starlight and dissipated, and the hellish world in front of her also became fragmented. As her consciousness went black, she instantly fainted. In the auditorium. Everyone closed their eyes, their faces were filled with deep sorrow, and tears were flowing down their cheeks. Their frowns slowly relaxed, but after the zither completely dissipated, the entire scene was dead silent. At this moment, even if a needle fell to the ground, it would be heard clearly. Behind Feng Yao zither. Tang Xiu slowly raised his head. When he subconsciously raised his hand and touched his face, he found that 2 lines of tears had unexpectedly flowed down his cheeks without him noticing. His gaze slowly swept across the audience. When he released his divine sense, he saw many familiar faces. Tan Xiu suddenly frowned. He reached out to grab the wind jade zither and walked towards Han Qingwu at the side of the stage. Without anyone noticing, Tan Xiu's fingers pressed on a few acupuncture points on Han Qingwu's body before quickly disappearing from the backstage side door. What happened to me? In the aisle behind the auditorium, Qi Nan was the first to wake up. The moment she opened her eyes, she didn't have time to wipe the tears off her face. She raised her head to look at the stage and was slightly startled to find that the boss was long gone. What was that power just now? Qi Nan's heart was trembling, and her eyes were shining with awe. She was sure that her boss's music was definitely strange. She'd experienced countless battles, and she'd even imagined that if she were to hear this zither music during a battle, then she would be like a lamb waiting to be slaughtered, and she wouldn't be able to fight back at all. In the past. Although she was in awe of Tan Xiu, it was because of Tan Xiu's identity. But now, she was in awe of Tan Xiu because of Tan Xiu's terrifying means. At the same time. On the other side of the stage, Zhang Xinya had already woken up. She quickly scanned the stage, but she didn't see Tan Xiu's figure. At this moment, she could still hear her own heartbeat, and she felt a faint chill in her body. She had seen the horror of Tan Xiu. When she was in Hong Kong, Tan Xiu's cruel killing methods were deeply imprinted in her mind. Tonight, she had experienced the beauty of the fairyland, and then the horror of hell. There was even a deep sadness in her heart that couldn't be dispersed for a long time. Before, she had never thought that playing the zither could reach such a level. The world outlined by the zither music was so real that it made people feel as if they were in the realm. In the auditorium, Yu Kai, Hu Qingsong, and the others slowly woke up. After they found that Tan Xiu had disappeared from the stage, they raised their arms and wiped the tears from the corners of their eyes. "Why do you feel so sad?" Hu Qingsong muttered with a thick northeastern accent. "It's very depressing. I feel so sad." Xue Chao nodded. Yu Kai's eyes looked around and found that the people around were the same as him. Almost everyone was wiping their tears, and the sadness on their faces hadn't subsided. He raised his hand to press his chest and murmured, "Playing the zither to this level, eldest bro Tang, can be considered as unprecedented in history, right? I never believed that music could shock people's souls, nor did I believe that music could make people hallucinate. But now I believe it." Hu Qingsong, Xue Chao, and the others turned their heads and looked at Yu Kai's expression. Hu Qingsong then said, "Me too. Eldest bro Tang played the zither so well. He made me feel the fairyland and hell." "Me too. Eldest bro Tang will be my idol from now on." Xue Chao nodded repeatedly and slowly raised his thumb. In another direction, Jiang Fian wiped the tears on her face and grabbed Li Xinjie's arm. With a bit of sobbing tone, she said, "Xinjie, why do I feel a bit distressed?" Li Xinjie looked at her with a complicated expression and said with a bit of sadness, "We were all affected by the zither sound. I just observed that almost everyone was the same as us." Tan Xiu's zither skill is really amazing. He's simply a god in zither music. God. Mu Weining, who was sitting quietly at the side, suddenly felt that Li Xinjie's description was very appropriate. That's right. Tan Xiu was indeed a god in playing the zither. And, he was also a god in painting and calligraphy. How can there be such a powerful man in this world? Just like a god. Can I fall in love with any other man after meeting him in this life? A bit of bitterness suddenly appeared on the corner of Mu Weining's mouth. An inexplicable feeling was born in the deepest part of her heart. In another place, Yi Lianyan's eyes were hazy with tears. After experiencing the taste of heaven and hell, she suddenly found that she knew too little about Tan Xiu. The zither sound and the lyrics. She didn't know how to describe it. The idea of rushing out to find Tan Xiu was particularly strong at this time. On the stage, the host wiped away the tears on her face and quickly adjusted her mood. She took the microphone and came to the stage. She looked at the sad expressions of the school leaders as well as the students below. After a few seconds of silence, she slowly asked, "Everyone, what do you think about student Tang Xiu's zither playing and singing?" More than 10 seconds passed. For more than 10 seconds, no one responded. Everyone was adjusting their emotions as they recalled the scenes they had just experienced. Finally, a leader of Shanghai University stood up from his chair and said in a deep voice, "Good, very good. I've heard countless zither playing and singing, but none of them can be compared with the level of Tan Xiu." Applause sounded. Then, there was continuous applause. Just 10 seconds later, the applause in the auditorium was extremely loud. Everyone was applauding. Everyone was amazed. Applause. It woke up Han Qinggu, who was in a coma. What happened to me? Han Qinggu opened her eyes and found herself in a dark place. The whole auditorium was echoing with thunderous applause. She supported herself with her arms and sat up with difficulty. Suddenly, a deep sorrow welled up in her heart. At the same time, her body stiffened and memory fragments kept flashing in her mind. Like the memory fragments when she was listening to the zither sound, she saw a lot of scenes. She saw a lot of people whose faces were not very clear, and she also saw herself. However, these memory fragments were not connected. It was as if he was looking at a picture. Those pictures were very familiar, but also very strange. What are these? Han Qinggu felt a splitting headache and couldn't help covering her head with her hands. She desperately wanted to see more memory fragments. However, when the series of pictures disappeared, she had a headache and couldn't remember what was going on with those pictures. Immediately, she slowly stood up and walked backstage with a pale face. She didn't realize that she was drenched in sweat at the moment, and her legs were slightly trembling as she walked. In the boys' dormitory, Tan Xiu leaned on his Land Rover and looked at Qi Nan, who rushed over after receiving his call. He handed the wind jade zither to her and said, "Take it back. Give it back to Wei Jianping tomorrow." Qi Nan received it with a complicated expression. Looking at Tan Xiu's indifferent expression, she hesitated and said, "Boss, your playing is really great. But I'm a bit confused." "Say it," Tan Xiu said. "Your zither sound and singing were full of happiness and joy," Qi Nan said. "But why did the artistic conception change so much later? The artistic conception of the immortal dream should be beautiful, right?" Tan Xiu said lightly, "My heart touched something and I played it wrong." Qi Nan suddenly understood, but fear grew inside her heart. She didn't understand what happened to Tan Xiu, but she was sure that it was definitely an extremely tragic and sorrowful story. "Then I'll go back first, boss." "Let's go." Tang Xiu waved his hand as he took out a cigarette and lit it. He watched Qi Nan disappear into the night in the distance. Suddenly, he let out a self-deprecating smile. He thought that he could suppress his emotions, but he didn't expect that he would fail. Fortunately, the artistic conception of the zither's sound didn't contain any offensive means. Otherwise, everyone in the auditorium tonight would have turned into idiots. He shook his head. Tan Xiu wanted to drive away and go to the Blue Star Villa complex to wait for Zhang Xinya. But then he remembered that he had given the car key to Yu Kai, so he turned around and walked into the dormitory. The emotional thread. It couldn't be cut, and it was messy. Therefore, he absolutely put it down for the time being, no longer thinking about it, and no longer thinking about it. One day in the future, when he had enough strength to solve the problem, he would awaken Han Qingwu's memory, figure out everything, and solve everything. "Sorry, I'm attending China's Federation of Literary and Arts training in Beijing. I was dragged out by a group of gods to drink for a while, so the update time was delayed. Today, I'll temporarily present the 3rd chapter. Tomorrow, at least 5 chapters will be released. I'm looking for recommendation votes for a new week." Chapter 437. It had been more than 10 minutes since Tan Xiu received Zhang Xinya's call. After the two agreed on a time and place, they soon met on the concrete road next to the forest on the campus. "Idol." A smile hung on the corner of Zhang Xinya's mouth as she looked at Tang Xiu with sparkling eyes. Tan Xiu couldn't help laughing and said, "Are you kidding me? How did I become your idol?" Zhang Xinya said with a smile, "Tan Xiu, your playing and singing level is unprecedented and unparalleled. Although I used to have a few idols, the admiration I felt for them was definitely not as strong as the admiration I have for you. If you have time in the future, can you teach me how to play the zither?" "We'll talk about this later," said Tan Xiu. "Where are we going now?" "I've booked a place in the purple fragrant garden," said Zhang Xinya. "Let's have supper first and then go shopping, how about it?" Tan Xiu's mood was a little gloomy, but he didn't object to Zhang Xinya's words. Maybe he would feel better after eating something and walking around. "All right." Because Zhang Xinya didn't drive here, but wore a mask and a pair of black-rimmed glasses to disguise herself, she asked, "Do you have a car?" Pointing at the Land Rover beside him, Tan Xiu bitterly smiled. The car key is in my classmate's hand. Let's leave on foot first before taking a cab. Zhang Xinya hesitated for a moment before she nodded and said, all right. The place I chose is a little far from here. You might not be able to make it back in time tonight. Tan Xiu said, it's okay. I have a house outside the school. You should be a freshman this year, right? Zhang Xinya was surprised. Is it okay not to live on campus? Tan Xiu said, it's nothing. You can live on campus. If something happens, or if it's Saturday or Sunday, you can live outside. As the two walked and chatted under the dim street lights, no one recognized Zhang Xinya. In next to no time, the two of them stopped a taxi and rushed towards the violet fragrant garden. Purple aromatic garden. It was located in the suburbs of Shanghai and covered a large area. A surging river passed through the purple auspicious garden and reached the vast sea. When the taxi drove across the bridge, it stopped in front of a classical-style building amidst the sea of lights. Zhang Xinya hurriedly paid the fare, and the two of them got off the car and walked towards one of the classical pavilions. The environment here is not bad. Tang Xiu glanced around and exclaimed in admiration. Zhang Xinya smiled and said, the Purple Aromatic Garden is one of the more popular restaurants in Shanghai. If you really want to rank it, it's definitely in the top 3. However, this place only accepts members, so guests who don't have a membership can't come here to spend money. Tan Xiu said with a faint smile, so, you're a member here. That's right, said Zhang Xinya with a smile. When the Purple Fragrant Garden opened for business, I was invited to cut the ribbon. Therefore, he naturally applied for a diamond card here. Actually, eating here was also divided into different classes. Each membership card had a different level, and the treatment they received was also different. Even the dishes they order are very different. What are the classes? Tan Xiu was surprised. The membership cards here are divided into 4 classes, said Zhang Xinya with a smile. The lowest class is the silver card. You only need to recharge 100,000 yuan in one go to apply for it. Then from low to high, it's the gold card, diamond card, and emperor card. According to the boss here, guests who can get a gold card need to recharge at least 1 million yuan for the first time. A diamond card needs to be recharged at least 10 million yuan. As for the emperor card, it needs to be at least 100 million yuan. Therefore, having a diamond card here is already very amazing. It's said that no one with an emperor card has appeared until now. Tan Xiu said with a smile, just to eat here and become a member, you need to recharge 100 million yuan for the first time. This difficulty is too high. No wonder no one has obtained an emperor card until now. Actually, I think it's a bit unrealistic to recharge 10 million yuan in one go. Zhang Xinya shook her head and said, you're wrong, Tan Xiu. As far as I know, the number of diamond card customers in the Purple Aromatic Garden has already exceeded 100 people. 100 people? Tan Xiu was surprised. Are you kidding me? Don't tell me those people don't take money seriously. How many times do they have to spend here to eat all the 10 million yuan they recharge? You're wrong. Zhang Xinya smiled tenderly. Many large listed companies will hold events every year. They can hold the event here, so they can spend hundreds of thousands or even millions of yuan. Sometimes, it's even possible to spend millions. Tan Xiu suddenly understood and said with a smile, in any case, it's really not worth it to apply for such a high-level membership card here. However, everyone has their own subjective views. I don't think it's worth it, but maybe they think it's worth it. Let's go. I'll also bask in the limelight and see how high the diamond card treatment is. Zhang Xinya smiled and said, it seems like you're going to rip me off tonight. Tan Xiu smiled. Just as he was about to step through the door, his mobile rang in his pocket. He took it out and slightly furrowed his brows. Who's calling? You don't want to pick it up. Zhang Xinya, who stood beside Tan Xiu and saw Tan Xiu's frowning and hesitant expression, quickly asked in a low voice. Wait for me for a moment. I'll pick it up. Tan Xiu shook his head. After saying that, he turned around and walked outside. After walking 7 or 8 steps, he pressed the answer button and said, "What's the matter?" "Tan Xiu, you played very well." Han Qingwu's tired voice came out of the phone. "I know," replied Tan Xiu lightly. Han Qingwu was silent for a moment and then said, "Tan Xiu, the song you played and sang, Immortal Dream. I think it's very familiar, but I'm sure I've never heard it before. Also, after listening to your song, I'm in a bit of a situation." "What's the situation?" asked Tan Xiu with a frown. "Some blurry pictures appeared in my mind. These pictures are very strange, just like the scenes in those Xianxia movies," said Han Qingwu. "Some people are flying on flying swords, some people are moving clouds and rain, and some people are fighting. In short, I seem to know those people, but I don't know them at the same time. Those scenes seem familiar to me, but they also seem very strange. What the hell is going on?" Tan Xiu's body trembled. His eyes lit up and he said in a deep voice, "Is there anything else besides these? For example, who are the people in the pictures that are very important to you? Are the things in the pictures also important to you?" Han Qingwu hesitated for a moment and then said, "Yes. I can't see his appearance clearly. It's just a figure in the lightning and thunder. And, there's also a woman who looks very much like me. She's in pain and despair. She's very unwilling to do something, but she has to do it. That's to attack the person in the lightning and thunder." Memory fragments? From Han Qingwu's description, Tan Xiu understood that the memory of her past life was triggered because of the immortal dream he played. In fact, the person who she couldn't see clearly, who was surrounded by lightning and thunder, might even be himself. "Think again. What else can you think of?" Han Qingwu said, "I can't think of anything else. The more I think about it, the more I feel a splitting headache. I don't know what's going on. It's like, there's a voice in my heart telling me not to think about it." Tan Xiu sighed inwardly and lightly said, "I see. I hope you can remember it soon. By the time you remember, it's time for us to settle some things." "What is it?" asked Han Qingwu with a confused expression. Tan Xiu's expression turned cold as he indifferently said, "It's nothing. If there's nothing else, I'll hang up now." After saying that, he pressed the hang-up button and put away the mobile phone. A complicated expression appeared on his face. He was a bit surprised about Han Qingwu's situation. After all, the memory of her past life appearing in this life was a very rare occurrence, even among tens of billions of people. Even the immortals in the immortal world, no matter how strong or weak they were, couldn't clearly see the past life. Unless they became a deity. Or, it was that 1 in 10 billion chance. Tan Xiu took a deep breath and dispelled the distracting thoughts in his heart. Although he was very concerned about whether Han Qingwu could restore all the memories of her past life in the future, but since she only got some fragmented memories, it proved that it was not the time to solve the problem with her yet. It was not the time yet. He didn't want to worry about it too early. "No way, right? I told you a lot of jokes along the way, and finally made your mood a bit better. How come your mood seems to have fallen into the abyss after just answering the phone? Tell me who made you unhappy, I'll go beat her." Seeing that Tan Xiu came back with an indifferent expression, she immediately said with a wry smile, "I'm sorry, I'm fine." Tan Xiu smiled lightly. "Since I promised to come out with you, I'll put away my other emotions. There's a beauty treating me tonight, so I'll definitely make you pay for it. If you make me poor, you'll have to support me later," said Zhang Xinya with a charming smile. Tan Xiu let out a faint smile and was about to enter the door when a familiar voice came to his ears from behind. "Old Jean, don't dawdle anymore. I've found a good project. If we can operate this series of IPs well, we'll definitely make a lot of money. Moreover, my company's technical team is already going all out to build the best application in the country. At that time, our resources will be focused on promoting on my platform, and will definitely be popular. Brother Gu, I also know that the current popular IPs are very popular, but the key is that I don't know anything about it. You suddenly pulled me to invest, and I don't have any confidence in it. Moreover, I have a big project that I'm preparing to start recently, and I don't have enough funds to begin with. I'm afraid that something will go wrong once I allocate another batch of funds. Old Jean, I'm telling you, if you miss this opportunity, you won't get another one. If you don't seize it, then I'll have no choice but to find someone else to cooperate with. Brother Gu, let me think about it. Alright. Tonight, the silent nightclub will explode ruthlessly. This is the first chapter. Brothers and sisters, please keep up with the monthly votes and recommendation votes. Chapter 438. While talking, the two of them had already arrived behind Tan Xiu. Upon seeing Tan Xiu blocking their way, the two frowned and immediately bypassed Tan Xiu from both sides, ready to enter. However, Gu Changmin, who was a bit depressed, subconsciously turned his head and glanced at Tan Xiu. However, his footsteps came to a halt at this moment. A surprised look appeared on his face as he stopped and turned around. Tang! Brother Tang! Jin Xinkue also stopped upon hearing Gu Changmin's words. He turned around and saw Tan Xiu's face. He was pleasantly surprised and immediately said, "It's you, Brother Tang. I didn't expect to bump into you here." "I didn't expect to bump into the two of you when I came out for dinner either," said Tan Xiu with a faint smile. "Listening to your conversation just now, you seem to have some business to discuss." Gu Changmin touched the bridge of his nose and forced a smile. "There's indeed a business to discuss, but this old Jean doesn't want to talk to me." "Brother Tang, this is..." Tan Xiu glanced at Zhang Xinya. Zhang Xinya took off her black-rimmed glasses and the mask on her face. She then stretched out her hand and smilingly said, "Hello, I'm Zhang Xinya, Tan Xiu's friend." Zhang Xinya. Gu Changmin and Jin Xinkue stared blankly for a moment before a stunned expression appeared on their faces. "I didn't expect that I would not only see Brother Tang but also a big star tonight." "Hello, Miss Zhang. I'm Gu Changmin of Dingshan Media. I've long heard of your great name." Gu Changmin quickly stretched out his hand and shook hands with Zhang Xinya. Jin Xinkue also hurriedly stretched out his hand and smilingly said, "Miss Zhang is a world-famous big star and a household name in our country. Being able to meet Miss Zhang here is really a blessing of 3 lifetimes. I'm Jin Xinkue of Jinda Real Estate." Zhang Xinya stared blankly and blankly shook hands with them. Then, she turned to look at Tan Xiu. She was from the entertainment circle and naturally knew about Dingshan Media. It was just that she had never seen Dingshan Media's boss, so she didn't know what Gu Changmin looked like. She also knew about Jinda Real Estate because her villa in Shanghai was developed by Jinda Real Estate. The two of them, how could he call Tan Xiu his brother? Tan Xiu smiled and said, "Since everyone knows each other, let's go in. Zhang Xinya, if you don't mind, why don't we have dinner with our 2 brothers tonight?" "Of course, as long as it doesn't disturb the 2 of you." "Not at all, not at all. What Brother Tang said is exactly what I was thinking. Let's go together." Gu Changmin and Jin Xinkue quickly replied. Zhang Xinya was a little shocked when she saw how close the 2 of them were to Tan Xiu. Although she really wanted to have dinner with Tan Xiu alone, it was obviously not a good time to reject him. So she smiled and said, "It's my honor to be able to dine with the 2 bosses." "Miss Zhang, you're Brother Tang's friend, so you're also our friend." Gu Changmin waved his hand. "Let's not treat each other like outsiders. In the future, if you have any problems in Shanghai, you can directly look for me. As long as I, Gu Changmin, can do it, even if I have to exhaust all the power of my Dingshan Media, I will do it well." Jin Xinkue also heavily nodded and said, "That's right. My Jinda Real Estate may be comparable to those top companies in the country, but I can't be compared with those real tycoons. But if Miss Zhang encounters any difficulties in Shanghai later, feel free to contact me directly. I'll definitely go all out when the time comes. After saying that, the two of them took out their personal business cards and handed them to Zhang Xinya. Zhang Xinya took the two business cards and saw that there was only a name and a phone number on them. There were no other words such as positions or any other words. She instantly understood that the two of them were not just polite words, but sincerely expressing their stance. Even more so. Her heart was as clear as a mirror. The reason why the two of them expressed their stance to her was definitely not because of her identity as a big star. Rather, it was because of Tan Xiu. Because she was Tan Xiu's friend. Thank you, old brothers, Xinya. If you don't mind, please call me Xinya later. Zhang Xinya suddenly realized that Tan Xiu's proposal to have a meal together was really good. She was able to get to know the two of them tonight, and based on their promise just now, she knew that she had hit the jackpot. As an exceptionally intelligent person, she would naturally climb up the pole and pull closer to them. Good, good, good. The two of them nodded with a satisfied expression on their faces. After entering the antique pavilion, Gu Changmin said with a smile, Brother Tang, do you want to go to the private box I booked? Although my rank here is not high, I can still enjoy a lot of treatment with a golden card. Xinya has booked a room, so let's go to our place. Tan Xiu said. She has a diamond card here, so it seems like she can enjoy more things. Diamond card? Gu Changmin was startled inwardly. He then said with a smile, all right, then. It seems that I'll be basking in Xinya's light tonight. A strange expression flashed in Zhang Xinya's eyes. She then said with a smile, it's my honor to entertain two old brothers. Quickly. The four of them came to the area reserved for diamond card holders. After entering the antique private box, a waiter brought the menu and Zhang Xinya personally ordered the dishes. After the waiter left, Gu Changmin asked with a smile, Xinya, I know that you're a famous singer with a very high status in the music industry. Do you have any interest in developing in the film industry? Zhang Xinya indeed had the intention to develop in the film industry recently, but most of her contacts were in the music industry. Even though many entertainment companies wanted to cooperate with her and even offered good conditions, she was still hesitant and hadn't decided yet. I do have such an idea, said Zhang Xinya with a smile after hearing Gu Changmin's question. It's just that I don't know much about some domestic film companies, so I haven't decided yet. Gu Changmin's eyes lit up and he immediately said with a smile, how about signing a contract with my Dingshan Media, Xinya? You can rest assured that I'll give you the best treatment. It won't be worse than those first-rate movie stars in the entire entertainment industry. How about it? This, Zhang Xinya hesitated for a moment. She quickly glanced at Tan Xiu and then said with a smile, can you give me some time to consider this matter, Brother Gu? I'll give you an answer by tomorrow night at the latest. No problem, said Gu Changmin with a smile. After saying that, he quickly glanced at Tan Xiu. Brother Gu, I accidentally overheard your conversation with Brother Jin outside, said Tan Xiu with a smile. Do you have any good projects recently? Gu Changmin stared blankly for a moment. He didn't expect that Tan Xiu would ask him this question. Immediately, a wry smile appeared on his face as he sighed, yeah. The development of the IP industry chain has reached a hot spot. My professional team has recently purchased a batch of good resources. I've personally investigated it and found that it's highly operable. Also, I have distribution channels and advertisements ready. It's just that I'm short on funds. I have some spare cash, said Tan Xiu with a smile. Gu Changmin stared blankly for a moment before his eyes instantly lit up. He was even a bit excited inwardly as he stared at Tan Xiu and hurriedly asked, Brother Tang, are you also interested in investing in the IP industry? Recently, Tang Xiu had learned a lot about the current hot business projects, including the operation of IP, app channels, and the profitability of the company. These two projects even had great potential. If he could manage them well, he would definitely be able to make a lot of money. He was a student. But he was also a businessman. Business was business, and he was naturally interested in the projects that could make him money. This was also the main reason why he proposed to have a meal with Gu Changmin and Jin Shinkue. I'm somewhat interested, Tan Xiu said with a smile. Gu Changmin slapped his thigh and excitedly asked, Brother Tang, how much can you invest? I dare not say much, but I can invest 1 billion, said Tan Xiu. But if I want to invest, I won't only invest in IP. I'm also interested in the application project developed by your company. Gu Changmin took a deep breath and seriously said, no problem. It's not a problem at all. Originally, it's impossible for our company to develop the application project alone, so financing is imperative. If Brother Tang can inject 1 billion, I don't need to look for someone else. The two of us can definitely do it well. I'm going to register a venture capital company in Shanghai recently, said Tan Xiu with a smile. How about I ask the person in charge of the company to talk to you when the time comes? No problem, said Gu Changmin without hesitation. I'm short on money recently, but the person I value more is you, Brother Tang. I'm sure we can make a lot of money if we cooperate. Jin Shinkue, who was sitting at the side, had a constantly changing expression. Finally, he couldn't bear it anymore and said, Brother Gu, I just thought about it. I think that investing in IP and application projects is really good. Although I don't have a lot of funds, I believe in Brother Tang's vision since he's willing to invest. I'm also prepared to invest several 100 million yuan. How about it? Gu Changmin looked at Jin Shinkue with an amused and angry expression. He was very clear about what Jin Shinkue was thinking inside. It was definitely a great thing to be able to tie his business with Tan Xiu. Even if, he wouldn't care even if he lost all the money he invested. What he cared about was nothing more than Tan Xiu. Brother Tang, you see, Gu Changmin threw the issue to Tan Xiu. I have no objection, Tan Xiu said with a smile. There's a saying that it's better to be happy together than to be happy alone. It's a good thing that everyone can make money together. Alright, then it's decided, said Gu Changmin with a smile. Zhang Xinya's eyes flickered as she kept glancing at Tan Xiu, Gu Changmin, and Jin Shinkue. She didn't expect that the three of them would actually decide on a project worth several 100 million yuan or even 1 billion yuan in just a few words. Suddenly, she was also a bit moved. Can you count me in? As a matter of fact, I've also saved some money in recent years. Although it's not much, it's not a problem to take out 200 million yuan. The three of you shouldn't be unwilling to take me in, right? Tan Xiu and the other two looked at each other in dismay. They didn't expect that Zhang Xinya would unexpectedly join in. However, the three of them didn't have an excuse to refuse Zhang Xinya, so they could only agree. Chapter 439. Zhang Xinya was a bit excited as she got the consent of the three men, but she was also a bit worried. Although she was a popular singer, she had just started her career and her foundation was too shallow. An investment of 200 million yuan was already her limit. Even the 2 villas in the imperial capital and Guanyang province had to be sold to raise the amount. She was perfectly aware of Tan Xiu's situation. He was definitely rich and overbearing. After all, Tan Xiu's final profit in Hong Kong was more than 10 billion yuan. Gu Changmin and Jin Shinkue were also famous big bosses in Shanghai with a net worth of more than 10 billion yuan. Therefore, they could afford the loss, but she couldn't. However, she believed in her own vision. The probability of making money was much higher than the probability of losing by cooperating with the three of them. She felt that she would regret it later if she were to miss such a good opportunity. At the side, Tang Xiu was clueless about Zhang Xinya's thoughts. After he finished talking with Gu Changmin, he turned to look at Jin Shinkue and smilingly said, Brother Jin, I just heard that the project you're working on is also short of money. Jin Shinkue stared blankly for a moment before a glint flashed in his eyes. He then asked, I don't have enough funds to begin with, and I'm even more short of money if I take out several 100 million yuan to invest in IP and app projects. I'll be very surprised if anyone can invest in it. Tell me about your project, said Tan Xiu with a smile. I spent a lot of money to buy a very good piece of land with a very good geographical location, said Jin Xinkue with a smile. Also, I'm planning to develop a high-end residential area project. Tang Xiu raised his hand and said, I got it. Jin Xinkue pondered for a moment and then seriously said, the total investment should be about 3.2 billion yuan. This is without taking into account the land. If I spend more than 2 billion yuan to buy the land, it should be about 5 billion yuan. This was without taking into account the land. If I included the land that I spent more than 2 billion to buy, it should be around 5.5 billion. Also, since my company has other projects, I'm afraid that I'll have to borrow half of the 3.2 billion yuan from the bank. Tan Xiu thought for a moment and said, actually, I'm very interested in investing in real estate. My magnificent Tang Corporation also has real estate business. If you are willing to replan and reprepare, I can consider making a venture capital investment, and the amount will not be less than the investment in Dingshan Media. Jin Xinkue was startled and quickly asked, Brother Tang, what do you mean by replanning and repreparing? Tan Xiu said, except for that piece of land, everything else will start from scratch. Of course, the most important thing is the architectural design. This, Jin Xinkue hesitated. Tan Xiu said, you can leave the architectural design of the high-end residential area to me. Jin Xinkue was stunned and then said in disbelief, You know how to design architectural drawings. Please don't joke around, Brother Tang. He didn't believe it. He didn't believe that Tan Xiu knew how to design architectural drawings. Even if Tan Xiu did, he didn't believe that Tan Xiu could design a good architectural drawing. It must be noted that the architectural design of his plot of land was done by hiring a very famous domestic designer at a high price, and it took a long time to complete. Furthermore, he was very satisfied with the architectural design. He also firmly believed that once it was built, it would be popular among the masses, and the sales problem would be reduced a lot. Tan Xiu looked at Jin Xinkue's expression and fell into silence for a while. Then, he lightly said, the original suburbs of Blue City have now been developed and built into a new city. The architectural design of those buildings was drawn by me. What? Jin Xinkue was a dignified big boss with a net worth of 10 billion yuan. Yet, upon hearing Tan Xiu's words, he jumped up from his chair. Disbelief burst out from his eyes, and his heart violently trembled. Tan Xiu said, if you don't believe me, you can contact the main person in charge of the project. He's the big boss of Blue City's Long Group, Long Hanwen. He'll tell you the answer. Jin Xinkue gasped for a few breaths. He immediately took out his mobile and dialed Long Hanwen's private number. Both of them were in the real estate business and had a very high position in the business world, so they had been in contact many times before. Boss Jin, what's wrong with you today? Why did you call me? Long Hanwen's voice came out of the phone. Jin Xinkue turned on the loudspeaker and hurriedly asked, Brother Long, there's something I want to ask you. Please, you must tell me the truth. Long Hanwen could hear the seriousness in Jin Xinkue's tone, so he replied with a sinking tone, Brother Jin, please tell me. I'll never conceal it if I can. Jin Xinkue quickly asked, I want to know who designed the blueprint of the new city in Blue City that your Long family is currently developing. I can't tell you. Long Hanwen replied without hesitation. Jin Xinkue's breathing stagnated as a forced smile appeared on his face. He then said, Brother Long, I'll ask in another way. Is the designer of the blueprint surnamed Tang? Tan Xiu shook his head and waved to Jin Xinkue. He grabbed the phone in his hand and said, Uncle Long, I'm Tan Xiu. You don't need to conceal it from Brother Jin due to some special reasons. Tan Xiu. How come you're with Jin Xinkue? Do you know each other? Long Hanwen's surprised voice came. Yes, I do, Tan Xiu said. Long Hanwen forced a smile and said, "It's because you told me not to tell others about the blueprint of the new city, so I didn't tell you. But since you've requested it, then I don't need to hide it anymore. Give the phone to Jin Shinkue, I'll tell him." Jin Shinkue quickly said, "Brother Long, the phone is on loudspeaker. Tell me, I'm listening." Long Hanwen said with a smile, "Brother Jin, the blueprint of the new city is indeed from Tan Xiu's hands. In this world, I'm afraid there's no one who can design such a good blueprint except him." Jin Shinkue gulped down his saliva and looked at Tan Xiu with a bit of awe in his eyes. One must know that he was engaged in the real estate business, so he naturally knew what the architectural design of the Blue City's new city meant. It meant that the Blue City's new city's architectural complex would become the landmark of the new city. It also meant that the final profit of the big project would be terrifying. "Thank you, Brother Long. I'll treat you to a meal some other day to express my gratitude." Long Hanwen said with a smile, "Forget about the meal. I'll be satisfied if you can bring Tan Xiu to see me. This brat is busier than me. I've been wanting to see him for a long time, but I can't even find his shadow." Hee hee. Jin Shinkue let out an embarrassed smile. Tan Xiu said with a smile, "Uncle Long, I'll go back to Star City for a holiday in October. I'll treat you to a drink." "Good, good, good. Then it's a deal." Long Hanwen laughed. After hanging up the phone, Tan Xiu looked at Jin Shinkue and asked, "Did you hear it? What's your decision now?" Jin Shinkue said without hesitation, "If you can design the blueprint of the Blue City's new city, Brother Tang, I'll replan and prepare everything according to your plan. No, I'm willing to do it even if it's worse than the one in Blue City's new city." Tan Xiu said with a smile, "My architectural design won't be bad." Jin Shinkue nodded with excitement and said, "Then I'll tell the company to stop first. Brother Tang, I'll wait for your design." "That's right, how long will it take?" "I need to know the area of the land, as well as the surrounding traffic and environment," said Tan Xiu. "Also, I'll take some time to check it out. If there's no accident, I should be able to hand it over to you before October 1st, Jin Shinkue praised, "No problem. You set the time and I'll wait for your call. I'll personally take you to see the land when you're free." "All right," Tan Xiu said with a smile. At the side, after the two finished talking, Gu Changmin directly said, "Brother Tang, Brother Jin, I'll take the two of you to play with the IP and app projects. You can't abandon me for your real estate projects. I'll figure out a way to get the money, and you must count me in." Jin Shinkue burst into laughter and said, "Brother Gu, I was the one who begged you to invest just now. But now that the tables have turned, how come it's your turn to beg me?" "Ha ha ha, don't worry. I have no problem with it as long as Brother Tang agrees. Brother Tang just said that we can make money together." With an envious expression, Zhang Xinya said, "I really envy you big bosses. It's such a good project, but it's a pity that I can't participate in it anymore. Taking out 200 million yuan to invest in the IP and app projects is already my limit. Otherwise, I'll have to sell my last villa in Hong Kong. There's no end to the money." Tan Xiu said with a light smile. "Just do what you can." Zhang Xinya smiled and said, "That's right." Zhang Xinya smiled. Soon after, they no longer talked about business matters and chatted about some interesting topics. As a superstar, Zhang Xinya's knowledge and experience were very good. As for Jin Shinkue and Gu Changmin, they were both cunning businessmen in the business world, and their experience was even deeper. Although Tan Xiu's EQ was not that high, he had lived in the immortal world for 10,000 years after all. Furthermore, he had experienced a lot of things after returning to Earth, so his mentality had improved a lot compared to before. Therefore, the four chatted with great interest and got along very well. At 10 p.m. after everyone had eaten and drank to their heart's content, they separated outside the purple fragrance garden. Tan Xiu took the car key left by Jin Shinkue and watched the designated driver take Jin Shinkue and Gu Changmin away. Then, He turned to look at Zhang Xinya and said with a smile, "You didn't drink, so you can drive." Zhang Xinya took the car key and said with a smile, "Thank you for today, Tan Xiu." "What are you thanking me for?" Tan Xiu stared blankly and was confused. "It's because of you that I got such a good investment opportunity," Zhang Xinya said with a smile. "Working with big bosses like you to make a living, I believe that I'll be greeted by spring all year round." "Superstar, you're really good at talking," Tan Xiu said with a smile. "I'm afraid I'm only good at talking," Zhang Xinya said with a smile. "But you're simply my role model in life. You're amazing in all aspects. You know what? I've begun to worship you." Chapter 440. As the saying goes, people are afraid of being famous as pigs are afraid of being fat. Tan Xiu used to be low-key due to his character. But now, he finally tasted the bitter fruit of being famous. Walking on the campus road, he was being pointed at by people. Some bold ones even came over to strike up a conversation, and many girls even boldly confessed to him. In the classroom, he also became the focus, and everyone's topic of discussion was almost inseparable from him. In addition, what made Tang Xiu feel helpless was that when he wanted to leave the campus and go outside, he was blocked by the media before he could even reach the campus gate. Had it not been for his brothers covering him, he would have been blinded by the flashes of the cameras. The only thing that made Tan Xiu somewhat satisfied was that Han Qinggu, the teacher in charge, had taken a leave of absence, and her class was replaced by another English teacher. In the male dormitory, Tan Xiu forced a smile and turned off his mobile. Just answering the phone gave him a headache. Looking at the three gloating guys around him, Tan Xiu listlessly sat on the chair and said, "Who's going to buy me dinner? I really can't go out." Xue Chao was a simple and honest man. Upon hearing Tan Xiu's words, he immediately said, "I'll buy it for you. What do you want to eat?" Tan Xiu indifferently waved his hand and said, "Anything is fine as long as I can fill my stomach. Also, when our dormitory is about to close, I'm going to sneak out. I've already informed the teacher today, so I'll be studying by myself in the next few days." The three of them looked at Tan Xiu with some sympathy. Yu Kai threw Tan Xiu's Land Rover's key to him and said with a smile, "Since you want to sneak out, I think it's better to drive out. I heard that the current internet celebrities are actually no different from those big stars. I didn't believe it at first, but now I finally know that the attraction of internet celebrities is no less than those big stars. Speaking of which, internet celebrities are also different from big stars. I have no interest in becoming an internet celebrity or a big star." Tan Xiu forced a smile and said, "If it's possible, I'd like to give the opportunity to become famous to you." Yu Kai burst into laughter and said, "You deserve it. Who asked you to have such an outstanding performance in the freshman welcoming party? Even the limelight of the superstar Zhang Xinya has been stolen by you. If you don't become popular, who will?" Sigh, Tan Xiu shook his head helplessly. Star City, a certain high-end villa complex. After a busy day, Kang Xia dragged her weary body back to her residence. She took a comfortable bath, put on clean pajamas, and poured herself a glass of red wine out of habit. While tasting the wine, she grabbed her laptop and curled up on the sofa to surf the web. "Boss, open the door, open the door." Andy's voice came from outside the villa's courtyard. Kang Xia was startled. Although the villa she lived in and Andy's villa was only tens of meters away, Andy rarely came to find her in such a hurry. After opening the courtyard door with the remote control key, Kang Xia looked at Andy, who rushed into the villa and rushed to her room on the second floor. She couldn't help laughing and said, "Did the sky just fall down? Look at your anxious and panicked look." Andy raised her hand to interrupt Kang Xia. She pointed to the laptop beside her and said, "Boss, open the web browser now. You don't need to search anything, just look at the headlines." "Headlines?" With a confused expression, Kang Xia opened the web browser according to Andy's instruction. She immediately saw the news content at the top. At the freshman welcoming party of the University of Shanghai, a heaven-defying musical deity appears to be playing the zither and singing. After Kang Xia clicked it, a clear photo suddenly appeared in front of her. The photo was of a handsome young man sitting in front of a zither and playing. This, isn't this boss? Kang Xia abruptly raised her head and looked at Andy. Andy nodded heavily and said, "Yes, it's our boss." Scroll down to the bottom. There's a video of our boss playing the zither and singing. Pay attention, you must concentrate and listen to our boss's performance. You will be shocked. Kang Xia clicked the video and quietly enjoyed it. Along with the sound of the zither, Kang Xia was instantly attracted by the wonderful musical notes. Unconsciously, her whole mind was immersed in the zither's sound. Even the world in front of her seemed to change. The song came to an end. Kang Xia slowly opened her eyes. When she subconsciously wiped the tears on her face, she looked at the dazed Andy and murmured, "Boss's zither music and the song he sang, it's like there's some kind of magical power. It's inconceivable. It's really inconceivable." Andy came back to her senses and said, "Boss, our boss is famous now. It's not only the headlines of this web browser, but the entire internet is also in chaos. The headlines of major web browsers, the front pages of various forums, and even the video and chat tools have been forwarded. According to the statistics of some people, the video of our boss playing the zither and singing has been forwarded more than 10 million times." Hiss. Despite Kang Xia's strong willpower, she still couldn't help but gasp after hearing Andy's words. Tens of millions of times of the video being forwarded had almost reached the limit of some of the most important videos in the country. She simply couldn't imagine how many people would like and comment on the video after it was forwarded tens of millions of times. Thinking up to there, Kang Xia immediately opened some forums. When she saw the number of comments and likes on those forums, her mouth fiercely twitched a few times. She looked at Andy with a strange expression. Boss is awesome, isn't he?" asked Andy with a smile. "Awesome. He's really awesome." Kang Xia forced a smile. "But I can guess that our boss is also having a headache now, a very big headache." "That's right." Andy giggled and said, "Our boss has always been low-key, yet he inexplicably became an internet celebrity. I'm sure he's very depressed right now. Maybe he's hiding somewhere now." Kang Xia took out her mobile and dialed Tan Xiu's number. Quickly, she threw the phone to the side and said with an expression of being at a loss whether to laugh or cry, "Boss's cell phone is turned off." "It's definitely because boss's cell phone number has been exposed and many people are calling him," said Andy with a smile. "He's so annoyed that he turned off his cell phone. I just browsed the music forums and found that dozens of top musicians in our country have publicly spoken on the forums. Many of them even posted on their Weibo accounts. Almost everyone's evaluation is so high that it makes one's hair stand on end. That's right, we met Du Wen in the imperial capital. He's a grandmaster of the music industry. Do you know what he said?" "What did he say?" asked Kang Xia curiously. "He said that he once thought that he was already standing at the pinnacle of music and that it would be very difficult for him to make another breakthrough in his life. He even said that he couldn't find a direction to make another breakthrough. But after watching this video and listening to our boss's zither playing and singing, he realized that he was just a frog in the well. He realized that he was still very poor in music. He even publicly said that if boss is willing to accept him as an apprentice, he's willing to worship our boss as his master." This, Kang Xia was scared stiff. It must be known that Du Wen was a big name in the music industry. Even if she wasn't a person in the music industry, his name was simply like a thunderclap reverberating in her ears. Such a powerful figure, a great figure who had been immersed in music for decades, unexpectedly publicly said that he wanted to worship the boss as his master. Old boss was also amazing and heaven-defying, wasn't he? Andy giggled and said, "Boss, I know that our boss is a god. He's the most worshipped idol in my life. His architectural designs have made countless top artists in the country concede defeat. Now, he's using music to make countless top musicians in the music industry gasp in admiration. I find that I love Boss more and more. Kang Xia shook her head with a smile. Inwardly, she was very happy. The more amazing Tan Xiu's performance was, the more she felt that her vision was right. Jingmen Island, Everlasting Feast Hall. Ouyang Lulu was driving her Land Rover Range Rover and quickly rushed into the parking lot. She was the only one who dared to drive recklessly in the entire Everlasting Feast Hall. Since she was a friend of her boss and Gu Xiaoxue, the patrol members turned a blind eye to her behavior. Lulu, why did you call me in such a hurry? What happened? Gu Xiaoxue, who had been waiting at the edge of the parking lot for a while, asked with a puzzled expression when she saw Ouyang Lulu quickly get out of the car while holding something in her hands. Ouyang Lulu unzipped her handbag and took out a laptop from it. She turned it on and then handed it to Gu Xiaoxue, saying, Tan Xiu is on fire. Gu Xiaoxue took the laptop with a baffled expression and asked, Grand Master is on fire? Why is he on fire? Did someone provoke Grand Master? Ouyang Lulu waved her hand and said, he's not on fire. It's his fame. His fame is on fire. Just open a web browser and look at the headlines. Upon hearing it, Gu Xiaoxue followed Ouyang Lulu's instruction and opened a famous web browser. After looking at the headlines for a minute or two, her expression turned strange. However, after watching the video and listening to Tan Xiu's zither playing and singing, her eyes turned red. She silently looked up and said, that's right. He's indeed Grand Master. It's him, but he's really amazing. Ouyang Lulu sighed. His zither playing and singing are simply godly. He has become a big star now, and many people worship him. A trace of a smile appeared on Gu Xiaoxue's face as she said, Grand Master is very amazing. No matter what kind of sensation he creates, I think it's normal. Also, I suddenly realized that Grand Master is very handsome. Ouyang Lulu couldn't help laughing and said, he's very handsome. Anyways, I've decided to go to Shanghai to find him. You want to go to Shanghai? Gu Xiaoxue curiously asked. Why are you looking for Grand Master? Ouyang Lulu said, I'm going to chase after a star. Besides, I've been doing something recently and the preparation is almost done. I think I'll be able to finish it in a few days and then go to Shanghai. What exactly are you preparing for? Asked Gu Xiaoxue. I've updated 4 chapters this morning and only got 40 monthly votes. The recommendation votes are also not satisfactory. Brothers and sisters, don't be so ruthless. Quiet Night has been writing all night long for today's eruption. I'm begging for a monthly vote support. Chapter 441. Ouyang Lulu acted mysteriously and ultimately didn't say the answer. Gu Xiaoxue was well aware of Ouyang Lulu's character. Since she didn't want to say it, she was afraid that Ouyang Lulu wouldn't tell her no matter how hard she asked. Therefore, she could only put the confusion at the bottom of her heart. Have you had dinner tonight? Gu Xiaoxue was in a good mood, so she looked at Ouyang Lulu and asked. Nope. Ouyang Lulu giggled. I only read the news about Tan Xiu. Boss Gu, are you going to treat me to a big meal? Come with me. Gu Xiaoxue said with a smile. I'll prepare a special dish. 2 days later, a streamlined private plane took off from Jingmen Island's airport and landed at Shanghai's airport. Ouyang Lulu, who had a well-proportioned and perfect figure, was wearing a camouflage uniform and a cap. She also wore a pair of black sunglasses on her beautiful face. Her whole body gave people a wild and beautiful feeling. Behind her, in addition to the 4 cold-looking bodyguards, there were also 5 or 6 of her trusted men. Under the watchful eyes of countless people, a group of people left the airport exit. Boss! A woman in her 30s with short hair and looking energetic was waiting outside. Upon seeing Ouyang Lulu's group, she immediately came to greet them. Ouyang Lulu nodded and walked outside while asking, how's the arrangement in Shanghai? Have you prepared all the information about that high-class club? It's almost ready. We're just waiting for you to come and negotiate with the other party, boss. The short-haired woman was called Keely. She was very capable in her work and was quite valued by Ouyang Lulu. Of course, the most important thing was that Keely was very bold. She even helped Ouyang Lulu manage the casino on the Paradise Club cruise ship in Jingmen Island for several years. With her special means, she helped Ouyang Lulu earn a lot of money. Ouyang Lulu nodded and said, I see. Let's slow down first. While we're investigating the other party, they should also be sending people to investigate us. Let them investigate me. I hope they can investigate me thoroughly. Otherwise, negotiating with them won't go smoothly. All right. Keely nodded. In the parking lot, 6 Audi cars lined up. As the group arrived, the 6 drivers opened their doors and looked at Ouyang Lulu with awe. Give me the key. Ouyang Lulu came to the front of the pilot and stretched out her hand. The driver was stunned. Although there was a bit of confusion in his eyes, he still pointed to the control panel in the car and said, Boss, it's in the car. Ouyang Lulu nodded. After sitting in the driver's seat, she reached out to close the door. Under everyone's different expression, she slowly rolled down the driver's window and said, You go to your residence first. I won't be going back today. There are some other things I need to deal with. Tomorrow afternoon, we have a meeting. All right. The others nodded in agreement. Blue Star Villa Complex, in the corner of the northwest wall, in a blind spot of the surveillance camera, Duan Ning nimbly reached out and climbed over the wall from the outside. He had a small camera hanging on his body. After quietly observing the surrounding environment, he quickly opened a map and silently observed. He was a reporter, a contracted reporter of a notorious large studio in the country, and one of the people who often broke all kinds of major news in the entertainment industry in recent years. He was dedicated, and he made a lot of money. Due to his excellent performance, he received millions of yuan in bonuses every year. Coupled with his salary, he earned millions of yuan a year, which was absolutely a very good treatment. It was precisely because of this that he was full of enthusiasm. A few months ago, he even signed up for a training class at his own expense. Physical training, tracking and investigation training, and all kinds of general knowledge observation, in short. The current him was confident that his ability was much more powerful than a few months ago. According to the information, Tan Xiu lives in the 9th villa. I'm afraid it won't be easy for me to sneak into the vicinity of the 9th villa. However, I can choose other villas and find an empty one. I'll climb upstairs and squat there. I'm sure I can take pictures of the situation inside the 9th villa. Duan Ning smiled confidently. He immediately crouched down and quickly slipped to the side. Speaking of which, the security system of the Blue Star Villa complex was very good. Unfortunately, even a tiger would take a nap. It was broad daylight, and it was lunchtime. Therefore, Duan Ning slipped to the vicinity of the 11th villa without being discovered by the security guards. Hiding under the shade of a tree, he observed and found that there was no one in the 11th villa. Therefore, he quickly climbed over the wall at the corner of the villa and then climbed to the top of the villa. Immediately, he took out the camera, adjusted the focus, and began to aim at the 9th villa dozens of meters away. As the saying goes, there's no story without coincidence. Duan Ning himself didn't notice that just as he climbed to the roof of the 11th villa, a black Audi sedan not far away slowly drove in the direction of the 9th villa. Ouyang Lulu, who was driving, inadvertently saw Duan Ning's upper body and the camera in his hand. What's the situation? Ouyang Lulu frowned. At first, she thought that the owner of the 11th villa was on the roof. But after thinking about it, she realized that there was a problem. Tang Xiu is a big star now. Could it be that the paparazzi are eyeing him? Thinking up to here, a smile appeared at the corner of her mouth. As she changed the direction of the car, she parked the car next to the aisle behind villa number 11. Watching the two security guards walk over and disappear into a corner not far away, she quickly opened the car door and observed for a moment. When she found that there was no one around, she deftly climbed over the wall and learned from Duan Ning, climbing along the water pipe to the top of the building. Her movement was very light, and Duan Ning didn't even notice her when she climbed to the roof. Don't move. A sharp knife was pressed against Duan Ning's back. A faint fragrant wind drilled into Duan Ning's nostrils. His body suddenly turned stiff, and a chill grew inside his heart. Who are you? Who I am is not important. What's important is who are you? Ouyang Lulu sneered. Duan Ning slowly raised his hands and turned around. When he saw Ouyang Lulu, his expression slightly froze, and his eyes revealed a stunned look. He had seen many beauties, but those that could be compared to this soul-stirringly beautiful girl in front of him could be counted on one hand. It was Ouyang Lulu's appearance that made Duan Ning's hanging heart calm down. He said with a smile, "You're very beautiful, Mississippi. You're the most beautiful woman I've ever seen. But what are you doing in my house in broad daylight?" Your house. A trace of a smile appeared on the corner of Ouyang Lulu's mouth. She knew that this matter was not simple after seeing the camera. So she didn't believe Duan Ning's words at all. She carefully looked at Duan Ning and sneered, "If this is your house, then this entire villa complex is my turf. Cut the crap and tell me your name. How long have you been working as a paparazzi?" Duan Ning forced a smile and said, "I'm wrongly accused. This villa is really my house. The property certificate is in the study room on the second floor. How about you come down with me and I'll show you the property certificate?" "That's right, I'm Duan Ning, a businessman. My hobby is photography." Ouyang Lulu sneered, "I believe you. So just think that I broke into a private residence illegally." Duan Ning said, "Beauty, you'll be detained if you break into someone's private residence illegally. But since you're so beautiful, I won't pursue this matter as long as you accompany me to drink a few cups downstairs." "All right." Ouyang Lulu's foot flew and fiercely whipped Duan Ning's face. Although she was a girl and couldn't be compared with those experts, but dealing with ordinary people, she could still beat several of them. Her swift and fierce foot whipped Duan Ning's face, directly smashing him to the ground. "Bastard!" Duan Ning cursed inwardly as he dizzily crawled up. His eyes no longer looked at Ouyang Lulu with amazement, but full of anger. He didn't expect that such a beautiful flower would suddenly hit him, and even so ruthlessly. Ouyang Lulu crooked her finger and sneered, "Cut the crap and take out your reporter's certificate. Else, I don't mind calling the villa complex's security team immediately." "I think you should know the consequences of a paparazzi sneaking into a villa and secretly taking pictures of the residents' privacy, right? Those security guards may get angry out of shame and beat you to death or cripple you because you despised their profession and made them make a major mistake." Duan Ning's heart turned cold. His profession was indeed full of danger. He once had a colleague who had been with him for nearly 2 years. He broke into a house that was the focus of the news. After being caught, he was brutally beaten up. In the end, because the other party's bodyguards were too heavy-handed, he became a vegetable. Suddenly, malice sprouted in his heart as he stared at Ouyang Lulu. His toes fiercely stomped the ground and pounced toward her. He needed to subdue Ouyang Lulu. As long as she was subdued, not only would he be able to resolve the immediate crisis, but he could also taste the beauty delivered to his doorstep. He admitted that he had played with a lot of beauties, but none of them could be compared to the one before him. He thought that even if he raped Ouyang Lulu, as long as he threatened and tempted her, as well as finding a place to hide for a while, it would be completely fine. Bam, bam, Ouyang Lulu's complexion turned cold. The moment she retreated, she dodged Duan Ning's pouncing figure. At the same time, she quickly turned around and fiercely slammed her foot on his back. When Duan Ning's body was unstable, she grabbed his shoulder and punched his face with her small pink fist. It was a fight between a man and a woman. They were not on the same level. The difference was not that the man was strong and the woman was weak, but the woman was strong and the man was weak. Even though Duan Ning had gone through several months of training, he was still far from being Ouyang Lulu's opponent. He was beaten very miserably. However, what made Duan Ning sullen was that he could only curl up on the ground like a shrimp. Both of his hands held his head and constantly twitched. He didn't dare to scream, for fear of attracting the security guards. Chapter 442. A few minutes later. Ouyang Lulu looked at the bruised and swollen Duan Ning lying motionless on the ground like a dead dog. A smile appeared on the corner of her mouth. Her last blow had directly knocked Duan Ning out. Suddenly, a cunning glint flashed in her eyes as she glanced at the roof and found a brick in the corner. She picked it up and smashed it. After that, she picked up a small brick and aimed at the glass window of Villa number 9 dozens of meters away and smashed it with all her strength. In the study room of Villa number 9. Tan Xiao was quietly studying his professional textbook. Because of the recent Guqin playing and singing video, he could only hide here every day. Therefore, he had decided to take advantage of this time to study well and strive to master all the professional knowledge in the textbook as soon as possible. Pa! The sound of the glass being smashed made him dumbfounded. When he put down the book and came to the balcony window on the second floor, a strange expression suddenly appeared on his face as he looked outside through the glass window. He saw Ouyang Lulu, wearing a camouflage outfit, standing on the edge of Villa number 11's roof in a graceful and valiant manner, looking at him with her hands behind her back and a smile on her face. Hey, what the hell are you doing there? Tan Xiao was at a loss whether he had to cry or laugh loudly. Ouyang Lulu didn't answer him and just waved at Tan Xiao. Tan Xiao hesitated for a moment before he immediately left the house. When he came to Villa number 11's courtyard, he found that the door was locked, so he frowned and jumped over the wall. His figure was like a vigorous ape as he quickly climbed to the roof. When he saw the scene on the roof, he immediately asked with a confused expression, "What's going on?" The corner of Ouyang Lulu's mouth twitched. She raised the thing in her hand and said with a smile, "How are you going to thank me? I found it on this guy after I knocked him out." Reporter card? Tan Xiao frowned. He looked at the unconscious Duan Ning and then at the proud Ouyang Lulu. Tan Xiao's brows stretched out as he asked with a smile, "How did you come here? You even found this reporter?" Ouyang Lulu said, "This great aunt, no, this young lady is a natural beauty, an exceptionally smart girl, and my observation is formidable to the point of defying the heavens. So, as soon as I arrived here, I noticed that there was someone on the roof. I didn't pay much attention to it at first, but when I saw the camera, I thought about it for a while and felt that there was a problem. You're a big celebrity now, and someone pointed a camera at your villa. It would be strange if they didn't secretly take pictures." Tan Xiao gave a thumbs up and asked, "Lulu, what I'm most curious about is, how did you know I live here?" "Ah, Gu Xiaoxue." Ouyang Lulu giggled. Tan Xiao suddenly understood and smiled, "Let's go. I'll contact the security team later and let them handle it." Ouyang Lulu quickly said, "Reward, reward. Don't tell me that you still owe me a lot of big meals. What reward do you want?" Tan Xiao laughed involuntarily. Ouyang Lulu proudly said, "I want to learn martial arts from you." Tan Xiao stared blankly as a hesitant expression appeared on his face. Learning martial arts was, in fact, nothing. But if he wanted to learn powerful means, he could only cultivate. Furthermore, every single one of the cultivation techniques that he had mastered was very powerful. Therefore, once he taught them to Ouyang Lulu, then if Ouyang Lulu passed them on to the Ouyang family in the future, is it difficult for you, Tan Xiao? Ouyang Lulu asked. Tan Xiao's mind was racing. 10 seconds later, he finally shook his head and said, "It's not difficult. Since you want to learn it, then I'll teach you." Tan Xiao believed that it wouldn't be a problem as long as he could control the level of a simple cultivation technique. For example, the first or second level of leisure kung fu. Since Ouyang Lulu wanted to cultivate, then he would let her cultivate. At her current age, it would be very difficult for her to have high achievements without the assistance of huge cultivation resources. Tan Xiu, are you really willing to teach me? Ouyang Lulu's eyes lit up. She knew that many of the people in the Everlasting Feast Hall were martial arts experts. Even her good sister, Gu Xiaoxue, was a very powerful expert. The power Gu Xiaoxue used outside the Tang family's ancestral residence in the imperial capital was still vivid in her mind. Her heart was filled with the desire to learn. Yes, I will, said Tan Xiu. Can the martial arts you teach me reach Gu Xiaoxue's level? Ouyang Lulu quickly asked. You know Gu Xiaoxue's strength? Tan Xiu frowned and stared blankly. I know. Ouyang Lulu heavily nodded. When you were unconscious in the Tang family's residence in the imperial capital, Sis Xue personally knocked down a lot of guards. She's like a martial arts expert, very, very powerful. Tan Xiu suddenly understood and lightly smiled. If you have good aptitude and are very diligent, you can also reach her level. That's great. Ouyang Lulu was pleasantly surprised. Tan Xiu, I love you to death. Having said that, she opened her arms and was about to throw herself at Tan Xiu. Tan Xiu quickly waved his hand and pushed her away. With an expression of being at a loss whether he had to cry or laugh, he said, I'm just teaching you some skills. You don't need to throw yourself at me. Let's go. There are reporters here, and there may be some in other places. It's better for us to be exposed less outside. Unless what? Asked Ouyang Lulu with a smile. Unless you're willing to be like me, to have people pointing at you wherever you go, to have people confessing to you, to be surrounded by reporters, and even to be secretly photographed by paparazzi like now. Said Tan Xiu snappily. His words, Ouyang Lulu shuddered after hearing it. Shivering, she shook her head and said, forget it. I have no interest in becoming a star. If I become like this, I'll definitely collapse. But then again, I seem to admire you even more. Under such circumstances, you are still able to stay here safely. Tan Xiu helplessly said, I can't dig a rat hole to crawl into if I'm not here, can I? You don't know that someone specially sends me my meals every day. I can't even go out. Suddenly, his expression slightly moved as he suddenly recalled something. Then, he said, let's go back. Quickly. The two of them came to Villa number 9. After Tan Xiu strode into the study room, he grabbed the mobile phone on the desk and dialed Qi Nan's cell number. Qi Nan, investigate for me. Find out who spread the news that I live in Blue Star Villa complex, said Tan Xiu in a deep voice. What happened, boss? Qi Nan's inquiry came from the phone. Some reporters sneaked into Blue Star Villa complex to secretly take pictures of me, said Tan Xiu. I wouldn't have known that there were reporters around if it wasn't for a friend who came over and accidentally found me. So investigate for me. I want to know how the news that I live in Blue Star Villa complex was spread out. Don't worry, boss. I'll definitely find out. There was a bit of murderous aura in Qi Nan's tone. After finishing the call, Tan Xiu looked at Ouyang Lulu, who was leaning on the door. He then turned around and said with a forced smile, those paparazzi are really all-pervasive nowadays. Now I finally understand the troubles of those big stars. I heard that you performed on the same stage with the big star Zhang Xinya a few days ago. How was it? You didn't get charmed by that little vixen, did you? Lulu, Zhang Xinya is your friend, right? Tan Xiu was at a loss whether he had to cry or laugh. You don't need to say that about her. Ouyang Lulu giggled and said, I'm just kidding. I got the news that Xinya's concert is tomorrow. Let's go see it together, shall we? Pointing to his face, Tan Xiu helplessly said, do you think I can leave this villa complex with my current appearance? Who knows how many reporters are waiting outside now? Don't worry. Ouyang Lulu giggled. Who can recognize you if we go out in disguise? Besides, If you're really annoyed, you can directly hold a press conference and tell the world not to bother you. Tan Xiu rolled his eyes. He originally planned to let time dilute everything. But if he followed Ouyang Lulu's suggestion, the storm caused by his zither playing would not only not cool down, but would instead become bigger and bigger. Of course. He didn't know that it had already become a big issue. Nearly more than half of the country's population of more than 1 billion had seen his video and listened to his immortal songs. Alright, tell me your purpose in coming to Shanghai. Tan Xiu said. I don't believe you just came here to see if I'm annoyed to death by others. Ouyang Lulu giggled and said, the day after tomorrow, you're going out with me. I'll give you an unexpected surprise. What surprise? Tan Xiu was confused. Don't ask. Ouyang Lulu said with a smile. In short, I guarantee that the surprise I'll give you will make you unable to sleep for 3 days and 3 nights. Tan Xiu forced a smile and said, I'll be tired to death if I can't sleep for 3 days and 3 nights. Forget it. Don't tell me. Ouyang Lulu burst into laughter. There was a wild nature in her. Her carefree laughter expressed her bold and unrestrained manly aura. Mixed with her seemingly delicate and beautiful appearance, it formed a special charm of a woman. Despite being accustomed to seeing beauties, Tan Xiu was attracted by Ouyang Lulu at this moment. Tan Xiu, I'm going to call Xinya and ask her to have dinner with us tonight. Ouyang Lulu turned around and left the study room. Tan Xiu shook his head with a smile and followed her out. At noon. After eating the lunch sent by Qi Nan, Tan Xiu and Ouyang Lulu randomly picked an ordinary cultivation technique to impart to Ouyang Lulu. However, the cultivation technique he imparted was only the lowest 2 realms. If Ouyang Lulu couldn't even cultivate to the peak of the 2nd realm, then he didn't need to care about her later. As for Qi Nan, after sending the meal, she didn't stay here and continued to investigate how the reporters knew that Tan Xiu lived here. However, what Tan Xiu didn't expect was that Qi Nan came back at 3 p.m. and reported the results of her investigation to Tan Xiu. Chapter 443. As the saying goes, all the hustle and bustle in the world is for the sake of profit. What Tan Xiu didn't expect was that the security guards in this upscale villa complex would be so easily bribed. For only 20,000 yuan, they gave his mobile number and specific address to the paparazzi. What a human heart. Tan Xiu sighed deeply. He then looked at Qi Nan and said, how did the villa complex's staff deal with the security guard? Fire him. That's the most they can do, said Qi Nan. Since my information has been exposed, that's the only thing they can do. Tan Xiu nodded. But what about that reporter? Qi Nan said, he's been detained for breaking into private houses and secretly taking pictures of other people's private matters. The police are now contacting the owner of Villa number 11 and asking them to come over to check whether anything in the villa has been stolen or not. Tan Xiu squinted his eyes and asked with a smile, is there anyone from the police guarding Villa number 11 now? Yes, and the villa complex's security guards. Qi Nan nodded. Tan Xiu nodded and said, I'll give you a mission. Sneak into Villa number 11 without being noticed by the police and security guards and steal some valuables. Since that paparazzi is notorious, then let him stay in prison for a few more years. Qi Nan's eyes lit up. She immediately nodded and left. 10 minutes later. Qi Nan jumped over the wall and came back. She put a box in front of Tan Xiu and said with a smile, Boss, I've completed the mission. I've opened the safe in Villa number 11. There's not much cash inside, but a lot of gold and silver jewelry. That's right, I also found some special things. What special things? Tan Xiu was confused. Qi Nan pointed to the black box and said, everything is inside. You can have a look yourself, boss. Tan Xiu opened the box and poured the contents directly on the coffee table. Aside from a few stacks of 100 yuan bills, there were also a lot of gold and silver jewelry, and even a few diamonds. All of them were at least 5 carats. However, Tan Xiu was not very interested in these things. What he was most interested in were a few other things. A sharp dagger, a small silver pistol, nylon rope, night vision goggles, a set of special lock-picking tools, and 2 sets of black night clothes. Could the owner of Villa 11 be a thief? Tan Xiu didn't know whether to laugh or cry as he fiddled with these things and couldn't help but say. I think so, said Ouyang Lulu. Otherwise, why would he have the tools to pick locks? Looking at the material of the tool, it was really extravagant. It was actually made of gold. I reckon that this set of lock-picking tools could be exchanged for a few million gold coins at the exchange rate. Who cares who he is? Tan Xiu lightly smiled and said, if these things are found by the police, I'm afraid he'll be in big trouble. I'll take care of it for him. After that reporter is sentenced, I'll find time to return it to him. Boss, do you have any other orders? Asked Chi Nan. Tan Xiu waved his hand and said, nope. Go do your thing. Ouyang Lulu watched Chi Nan leave. She then grinned and reached out to touch the few diamonds on the tea table. Tan Xiu's eyes were sharp as he directly knocked the back of her hand and said with a smile, don't touch these things. I may not be a good person, but he didn't offend me, so these things must be returned to him. You can buy them yourself if you like diamonds. I don't have money. Ouyang Lulu pulled a long face and pitifully muttered. Tan Xiu rolled his eyes and snappily said, you don't have money. You're a famous rich woman, Ouyang Lulu. How can you not have money? Are you kidding me? Ouyang Lulu took out her wallet and showed it to Tan Xiu. She then said, I have 6 bank cards in my wallet, and the total balance is no more than 30,000 yuan. I'm really poor. I've never been this poor since I was 15 years old. What about your money? Tan Xiu asked with a puzzled expression. I invested. Ouyang Lulu forced a smile. Investment? Upon hearing it, Tan Xiu suddenly became spirited and curiously asked, what kind of business did you invest in? I won't tell you for the time being, said Ouyang Lulu. You'll know about it in 2 days. Anyways, Lulu, do you need to be so mysterious? Tan Xiu helplessly said. Forget it. Since you don't want to tell me, I'm too lazy to get to the bottom of it. Do you want me to lend you some money? No need for the time being. Ouyang Lulu shook her head. I'll naturally look for you when I need it. Tan Xiu nodded and said, all right. We're friends anyway, so don't be polite with me. Having said that, he took out his mobile and turned it on. Ring, ring, ring. However, less than 2 minutes after he turned it on, a melodious ringtone sounded. Tan Xiu looked at the caller ID and found that it was from Jin Zhongkue. He immediately pressed the answer button and said with a smile, old brother Jin, are you looking for me? Jin Zhongkue forced a smile and said, brother Tang, you finally turned on your phone. I've been calling you since yesterday. I've called you nearly 100 times until now. How is it? The feeling of being a star is not bad, right? Old brother Jin, you're joking, said Tan Xiu helplessly. My phone has indeed been turned off these days. I only turn it on once in a while. That's right, you're looking for me because I've prepared everything here. I'm just waiting for you to take a look at the land and then wait for your design, said Jin Zhongkue. Tan Xiu hesitated for a moment and then said, all right. Tell me the address, I'll rush there now. I'll be waiting for you at the intersection of Futian Road and Guangming Road in peaceful Serene District. That land is very close to this place, said Jin Zhongkue. All right. Tan Xiu replied. After hanging up the phone, he looked at Ouyang Lulu and said, I need to go out for a while. You, where are you going? Asked Ouyang Lulu. I've been discussing business cooperation with a friend recently, said Tan Xiu. I'm going to see him and take a look at a piece of land. Asked Ouyang Lulu with an astonished expression, business cooperation? What kind? Real estate. Tan Xiu said with a smile. Upon hearing it, Ouyang Lulu suddenly became interested and smilingly said, Tan Xiu, I'll go with you. If you personally draw the architectural design, my Ouyang family also intends to invest in it. Don't make a fuss. Tan Xiu said with a smile, the shareholders of this cooperation have already been decided. I'm afraid your Ouyang family has no hope to participate in it. However, you can come with me to play, but don't talk too much. Ouyang Lulu pursed her lips and snorted, I can't talk too much. I'm not going. I'll watch you talk about business and make a lot of money. Apart from being anxious, I won't be able to do anything. You go. I'll stay here and wait for Xinya. She said she'll come here immediately after she's done with her work. No problem. Tan Xiu nodded and said, then stay here. Having said that, he put all the things on the coffee table into the box and then carried it to the second floor. Just as he entered the study room, his fingers moved and the box was immediately stored into his interspatial ring. Tan Xiu simply changed his clothes and bid farewell to Ouyang Lulu before driving away. It was already an hour later when he arrived at the appointed place with Jin Xinkue. Brother Tang. Jin Xinkue, along with a man and a woman, was waiting on the roadside. Upon seeing Tan Xiu coming down from the car, he quickly greeted him with a smile. Tan Xiu looked at the man and woman and said with a smile, Old brother Jin, who are they? They're my right-hand men. They're also responsible for the surveying work of that piece of land, said Jin Xinkue with a smile. The specific measurement data has been made into a report. I'll give it to you later. No problem. Tan Xiu nodded. Quickly. Under Jin Xinkue's lead, Tan Xiu came to a barren land. He only observed a few times before he began to pay attention to the surrounding environment. After observing it, Tan Xiu found that the geographical location of this piece of land was indeed good. The transportation was also very convenient, and there was a bustling commercial district and residential area in the surroundings. If this piece of land was reasonably utilized and developed, it would definitely be able to make a lot of money. This place is good. I've decided to invest in this project. Give me a few days and I'll hand over the architectural design to you. After that, we'll discuss the cooperation contract. Once it's finalized, you'll be in charge of the specific project later. I'll send some people to supervise it, said Tan Xiu with a serious expression. Supervision. Jin Xinkue hesitated. Don't worry. Tan Xiu said with a faint smile. Your people will have the final say in the construction of the project. The supervision I mentioned is only aimed at two aspects. One is the financial aspect, and the other is the quality of the project. They won't affect the construction of the project. If they find any problems, they'll report to me immediately. Jin Xinkue smiled. No problem. Jin Xinkue smiled. The smile on his face receded a lot. He hesitated for a moment and then said, Brother Tang, there's something I don't know whether I should tell you now or not. Just say it. Tan Xiu said. Actually, my company has encountered some troubles recently. If we don't solve this problem, I'm afraid it will be difficult to start the project in the near future even if I get your architectural design. Jin Xinkue said. Tell me, what kind of trouble is it? Tan Xiu curiously asked. Have you heard of the Jindi Group? Jin Xinkue forced a smile. It's also a company that specializes in the real estate business. I've never heard of it. Tan Xiu shook his head. Jin Xinkue stared blankly for a moment before he immediately nodded and said, the Jindi Group's boss is called Yuanhe. He's rich and overbearing, and he's not inferior to me. We had some conflicts because of a project before. It's nothing at first since people of the same trade are enemies. But there were some conflicts between us in order to get this piece of land. Although this piece of land was eventually taken by me, Yuanhe still harbors a grudge against me. In fact, I've already prepared for the development of this piece of land. I even bought some building materials and sent them here. But recently, a group of youths from the underworld often come here to cause trouble. I've sent some people to inquire about them, and they're all instigated by Yi Wenhe. Chapter 444. Tan Xiu's brows deeply furrowed as he indifferently said, "What do you mean? Once we start the project, will we encounter the same problem?" Jin Xinkue smiled bitterly and said, "Although I can't be 100% sure, the possibility is very high." Tan Xiu nodded silently. Now that Jin Xinkue had mentioned this matter, he was very satisfied. After all, the two sides had not really signed the contract and started working together. If he hid this matter, it would not be right to talk about it once they started working. Let's put this matter aside for now. If this kind of problem occurs during the construction, let me know and I'll solve it. Jin Xinkue's eyes lit up as he rubbed his hands and said, "Please don't blame me, Brother Tang. I have no choice but to tell you. If I fall out with him, let's not talk about whether there will be any big problems, just the construction will be delayed." Tan Xiu smiled and said, "I'm already very happy that you can tell me now. Let's not talk about this anymore. Tell me the measurement of this piece of land. I'll go back and prepare it later." "All right." Jin Xinkue gestured to the woman beside him. The woman immediately opened her briefcase and handed a document to Tan Xiu. Tan Xiu took it and said, "Then I'll go back first." Jin Xinkue quickly asked, "Brother Tang, are you not going to have lunch with us?" Tan Xiu waved his hand and said, "No, I have something else to do." Subsequently, Tan Xiu drove back to the Blue Star Villa complex. Just as he entered the house, he saw Ouyang Lulu and Zhang Xinya walking out of the house arm in arm. The two women had smiles on their faces, and it was clear that they were in a good mood. "Superstar, we were just wondering if you would come back for lunch. The Everlasting Feast Hall's manager Qi personally delivered the food and it's already in the dining room," said Zhang Xinya with a smile. Tang Xiu locked the door and smilingly said, "Don't make a fuss. You're the real superstar. I just got a false reputation due to a freak combination of factors. I'm afraid that nobody will remember me in a few days." "I guarantee that I won't," said Zhang Xinya with a charming smile. "Also, this time, I want to invite you to be my special guest and participate in my concert tomorrow night." Upon hearing this, Tan Xiu quickly waved his hand and shook his head, saying, "No, no, no. Please spare me. If I were to be a special guest at your concert, I'm afraid the next day's headline would be me again. I've been living in an abyss of suffering these past few days. If this continues, I'll definitely go crazy." "I really don't get it, Tang Xiu," said Zhang Xinya with a charming smile. "Others will resort to unscrupulous means just to become famous. But you're very averse to being famous. Why is that?" Tan Xiu said, "Because I like a peaceful life. I don't like to be the center of attention wherever I go. Quietly making a fortune, that's the life I like the most." Zhang Xinya couldn't help laughing and said, "Your way of thinking is very special. But that's right. You have the ability. Even if you don't use your fame, you can still make a fortune. Big boss, big tycoon, can we go in and eat now? I'm afraid the fragrant dishes will be cold if we wait any longer." "Let's go eat then," Tan Xiu said with a faint smile. Delicious food and beautiful women. With the two accompanying each other, Tan Xiu ate to his heart's content. After he had eaten and drank to his heart's content, the two women pushed him out of the restaurant with the excuse of cleaning up the leftovers. Just as Tan Xiu turned on his mobile, he received dozens of missed calls and several text messages. After a rough look, Tang Xiu's complexion slightly changed. There were a few missed calls from Yuan Chuling, and one of them was a text message. Without hesitation, Tan Xiu dialed Yuan Chuling's number and asked in a deep voice, "What's going on? How did you get injured?" "The gym is being renovated, and some people came to make trouble." Yuan Chuling forced a smile and said, "The other party has a lot of people, and some of them are tough. We couldn't beat them. Where are you now? Asked Tan Xiu in a deep voice. The First People's Hospital of Shanghai, said Yuan Chuling. Tell me the specific room number. I'll go there now, said Tan Xiu. Immediately, Tan Xiu came to the door of the restaurant and said in a deep voice, I have an urgent matter to attend to. Please help yourselves. After that, he didn't wait for Zhang Xinya and Ouyang Lulu to ask loudly. He went straight to the courtyard, started the car and drove outside. It took him more than half an hour to arrive at the First People's Hospital of Shanghai. Although it wasn't his first time here, and he also knew the director of the First People's Hospital of Shanghai, he didn't disturb anyone and appeared in the ward where Yuan Chuling lived on the 6th floor of the inpatient department. At this time, there were 3 young men lying on the 3 beds in the ward. Except for Yuan Chuling who was half lying, the other 2 were even wearing oxygen masks. Tell me the details. Tan Xiu's expression was full of coldness as he looked at Yuan Chuling and said. Yuan Chuling's head was wrapped in gauze, and there were even traces of blood seeping out. There were also traces of friction on his face. His arm was also in a cast, and he looked very miserable. Boss, we're screwed this time. Our gym has just started to be renovated. I found another renovation team before, but they asked a very high price, so I didn't cooperate with them. As a result, on the 2nd day of the gym's renovation, that group of people came to our door. Not only did they obstruct the workers from working, but they also asked me to pay for their mental damage. As a result, we fought because of a disagreement. You saw that my 2 classmates were injured, and their injuries were worse than mine, said Yuan Chuling with a bitter face. Tan Xiu took a deep breath and asked, how are they? Yuan Chuling said, their lives are not in danger, but their injuries need some time to recuperate. What's troublesome now is that the school will punish us or expel us because of our truancy. That would be the end of us. Don't worry about the school. I'll find someone to help you deal with it, said Tan Xiu. Tell me the information about that engineering team. Yuan Chuling stared blankly for a moment and quickly said, Boss, I know you know some kung fu, but don't go looking for them. Only a small part of the people who beat us are from that engineering team. The rest are obviously youths from the underworld, and 2 or 3 of them are tough guys who obviously know kung fu. Cut the crap and tell me quickly. Tan Xiu frowned. You don't need to care about other things. Yuan Chuling hesitated for a moment before he honestly told Tan Xiu about the other party's information. Afterward, Tan Xiu stayed in the ward for a while and then left. He was somewhat angry inside. After he came back from the immortal world, his first friend and also his closest friend was Yuan Chuling. Back when he was bullied in Xingqing No. 1 High School, he always stood up for him. Back then, when he was forced to transfer classes, Yuan Chuling also stood up without hesitation and wanted to leave with him. Even so, he faintly rejected the existence of friends and brothers in his heart. But since Yuan Chuling was sincere to him, he wouldn't just sit back and ignore this matter. Tan Xiu left the hospital and drove to the address Yuan Chuling told him, New Dream Renovation Company. The New Dream Renovation Company had a grand decoration, and there were unexpectedly 2 beautiful women in long skirts at the entrance to receive guests. They bowed to greet the guests who walked in. Welcome. Upon seeing Tan Xiu's arrival, the 2 women bowed and greeted him with a genial smile. With an indifferent expression, Tan Xiu stepped into the New Dream Renovation Company's door and saw the luxurious decoration inside, as well as the well-mannered employees. He secretly sneered inwardly. Hello, sir. Is there anything I can help you with? A young man came to greet him and asked politely. There's a big deal that I need to talk to your boss in person, said Tan Xiu. The young man stared blankly and carefully observed Tan Xiu a few times. He faintly felt that Tan Xiu was somewhat familiar, but he couldn't remember where he had seen Tan Xiu. Immediately, he nodded and said with a smile, Please come with me. I'll take you to the VIP room to rest first, and then I'll immediately inform our manager. Tan Xiu nodded and followed the young man to the VIP room. After a few minutes of waiting, the VIP room's door was pushed open. A well-dressed middle-aged man looked at Tan Xiu with a smile on his face. He walked a few steps forward and greeted him with a smile. "Hello, sir. I'm the manager of the new Dream Renovation Company. My surname is Li. May I know how to address you, sir? The reason why I'm waiting for you is that the young man who brought me here is not high enough to contact your new Dream Renovation Company's boss directly." Tan Xiu waved his hand. "But I can tell you that I have a big deal here. It's so big that your new Dream Renovation Company may not be able to accept it. Hence, I need to talk to your boss face to face." Manager Li slightly frowned and asked with a probing tone, "Sir, may I ask what this big deal you're talking about is?" "The overall decoration of the entire luxury residential area," said Tan Xiu in a deep voice. Manager Li stared blankly and asked again, "The luxury residential area you're talking about is?" "Let your boss come and talk to him," said Tan Xiu indifferently. Manager Li was silent for a few seconds before he slowly nodded and said, "Sir, our boss has yet to return. Please wait here if you must see him. I'll immediately contact him and ask him when he can come back." "All right." Tan Xiu took out a cigarette from his pocket and lit it up. After taking a deep puff, he nodded and said. Manager Li carefully observed Tang Xiu a few times. Even the cigarettes Tang Xiu smoked, as well as the world-famous watch he wore on his wrist, were all taken into his eyes. Although he couldn't figure out Tan Xiu's identity, he was sure that Tan Xiu was definitely a rich man. Otherwise, it would be very difficult for ordinary people to own his clothes and world-famous watch. After the call, Manager Li didn't directly return to the VIP lounge but quickly rushed to the entrance on the first floor. He looked at the fat boss who came down from the car. A smile appeared on his face as he strode forward to greet him and said, "Boss, that big client is very young, but he seems to be rich. I know the watch on his wrist. It's worth millions." You're tuning in to the Blissful Bookshelf YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.